Hi, my name's William Douglas, but generally I go by Bill. And I've been in contact with a lot of people I know that are going through a lot of stress. And so I decided to create a video, and in time I may do free online Zoom classes on a donation basis, if I can raise enough donations to pay for the upgrade in Zoom so that I can have longer meetings. But I wanted to just get this out there because this is the culmination of about 50 years of my own personal mind-body practice and almost 40 years of teaching in major health centers and corporations and prisons and schools and everything. And and then also spending many years speaking to scientists that are specialists in the brain and consciousness and how mind body can affect and benefit our natural healing abilities and our natural abilities for antidepressant qualities and well-being and things like that. And so some of the science that I've become aware of has been what's called heart-centered consciousness, which is feeling more than thinking. And so in Tai Chi and Qigong, we talk about yin consciousness, where we go into receiving mode, where we're just present and enjoying the experience and feeling. And so that reflects in the heart-centered consciousness research. And it's a profoundly healing state of consciousness. And then also the other things that we've learned from these consciousness scientists is about gratitude consciousness. Gratitude consciousness is not about a groveling state of mind, like, oh, please, thank you, I'm not worthy kind of thing. No, it's really the opposite of that. What it is when we enjoy the experience of our being, when we enjoy sensations, that is the greatest sense of gratitude. So what you discover when you look at the science is the universe is very playful. It loves to be played with. The 50 trillion cells or so of our body, they love to be enjoyed. They love to be played with. In traditional Chinese medicine, we talk about smiling to your internal organs. And when I first heard that when I was young, I thought it was pretty, but I thought it was kind of stupid. But I realized after speaking to all these scientists and experimenting with my mind-body practice, I realized over time that those ancient Chinese masters that started talking about these things like smiling to our internal organs and the power of that, they weren't the stupid ones. It was me. I was the one who was stupid because it really does have a powerful effect. So what I've done is I've drawn on many different disciplines, different types of meditative experiences, yoga, and of course my core is Tai Chi and Qigong to create this simple kind of a medley of meditative experiences that if you go through it, it'll take about 35 minutes. And as you go through it, just hang in there and just play at it. If you lose track of where we are, that's perfectly okay. I'll be giving you many suggestions of relaxation and being present and feeling the breath and all these things. And so just tune in wherever you come back. So if your mind drifts off somewhere, don't criticize yourself. Just come back and play. You'll be just fine. If you miss things, it won't affect it, unless you spend a lot of time worrying about the fact that you missed something. So don't be judgmental about yourself. Just play at it, and we'll have some fun here. Now, one thing that I find very helpful, because we're going to start with a Neigong internal energy meditation, and then we'll go into other meditative experiences as we go through it. But the Neigong energy meditation, I found that in order to kind of get in the mood and get the most out of it, it's good to just become aware of some basic physics. And that is that all we are is energy. We're this amorphous field of energy and life energy. The Chinese call it qi. In yoga, they call it prana. And so the more space that we allow for this natural life energy, to expand through us, then the more healthy we are. Our DNA functions at a higher level, and so on and so forth. And so we'll begin this with that understanding that all we are is energy. And these Chinese masters, centuries ago, even millennia ago, what they realized is that we are made of energy, and this energy field that we are, it can get tight and constricted from the stresses that we pick up during the day. And there's nothing wrong with picking up stresses, it's part of life. But if we have these tools, and what they discovered is through a combination of visualization, gentle breathing, breathing awareness, and that heart-centered consciousness, just feeling. we can allow this energy field to start to kind of let go and untangle the knots start to untangle as we let go. So here we go. So when I first started doing this stuff, we did it with our feet on the floor. You may notice that I have my feet crossed now, but I did it for years with my feet on the floor. So if that's comfortable to have your feet flat on the floor, that's great. If you do it with cross legs, that's fine as well. We just want to be comfortable, really. But so here we go. So letting the eyes close easily and naturally. And as we breathe, just letting everything that we are just kind of sigh and surrender into the earth's embrace. Feel the earth hugging us. Feel our bottom settling in, the contact of the surface beneath, just to enjoy it, not to intellectualize it. And below our feet, settling in. Every breath, just letting the shoulders relax down and away from the neck. It's as though everything that we are is letting go of everything that we've held onto. Letting go of the day and the week, any plans that we have later. So that each releasing breath finds us falling deeper and deeper into the center where we are, right here and right now. And as we breathe and let go of our squeeze on ourselves again and again, there's just more and more space for this lightness and this openness. Noticing how the eyes, as they're gently closed, continue to let go. The tiny optical muscles and the soft tissue around them, softening and opening. We don't make it happen, we just let it happen. It's been waiting to happen. And the cheeks and the sinuses softening and opening. And the brow and the forehead and the sinuses softening and opening. Just enjoying the feeling of it. We don't make it happen, we just let it happen. And feeling the tip of the tongue, excuse me, and feeling the tip of the tongue lightly touching the gum line behind the top two front teeth. And that sensation brings us back from the world, from the day, and more into the heart-centered consciousness, where we're feeling more than thinking. And as we breathe and let go again and again, we just feel that space opening through us, letting go of our grip on things, allowing more space for that lightness and that openness. And now opening to a sun directly above the head. And just by thinking of that radiant, lighted awareness above the physical fray, we can experience a lift in vibratory rate, a feeling of just lightening up on ourselves and the world all around us, permeating everything that we are. As we breathe and let go again and again, just opening. And now the brain mind opening to it. As the mind sighs, letting go of trying to think or trying not to think. So let that whole energy field of our consciousness and head and mind just sigh. Again, letting go of trying to think or trying not to think so that we can just drift on whatever lilts through this lighted, knowing awareness that we are. And down through the sides and the back of the head, the base of the skull begins to let go. And as that energy field we think of as the old brain in the back of the head sighs again and again, all that panic and fear stuff that's squeezed back there is now surrendering into the safety of this opening lightness. in the spine and the spinal fluid and all the miles and miles of nerves being soothed and coated in this silken expanse. The sensory awareness lifting and lighting. Nice full breath. Letting our whole sensory awareness just sigh, let go of trying to feel or trying not to feel, so that we can just drift on whatever lilts through. Throughout our being and field, as well as on up through the solar plexus. And as our nerve bundle in the upper abdomen just sags as it sighs, so feel it sagging, surrendering to gravity as it sighs. And it's really easy to kind of think of feeling, but not really be feeling. So really feeling it, just surrender, just sag as it sighs again and again. And that surrender allows space for that lightness to echo through the abdomen and the pelvic bowl, through all the organs, kidneys and adrenals in the lower back, and on up through the torso and the organs, lifting and lighting, on up through the heart and the lungs. The lungs, the wings of inspiration begin to open, to lift and light. And again, we don't make it happen, we just let it happen. Just like we don't have to make a squeezed sponge fill with air or water. All we do is just stop squeezing, and then it just fills. And the bronchial tree, the upper chest lightening up on itself. So that every breath we breathe in breathes in a lighted oxygen that's carried with every beat of the heart through the circulatory, liquid, lymph, and glandular systems. And with the liquid systems, the emotional awareness, lifting and lighting. As we sigh and let go of our hold on emotional states, so that we can just drift on whatever lilts through. This lighted knowing, sensory, and emotional awareness that we are. As we're being opened and unfolded by it. The field all around us begins to blaze up in a magnetic consuming fire action, magnetically drawing and lifting the tight and heavy loads up and out, off of us in all directions. As we just breathe and let go again and again, some of the weight of the world is lifting up and out and off. As we just sigh and let go ever deeper with each breath. Loosening, stretching, yawning, anytime we feel like it, just letting this be a loosening, an unloading, an unburdening. Layers and layers and layers lifting off and out of us as we just breathe and let go again and again. The bones sighing, unloading their tight, heavy loads, the very core of our being sighing, letting go again and again. And the more we let go, the more we can let go. And there is no greater sense of surrender than the release of the full breaths, the sighs and the loosening yawns. Our whole being, our whole consciousness, our whole existence can sigh, not just the lungs. Unloading. You may literally feel burdens beginning to lift up off the back and the shoulders, out of the back of the neck and the base of the skull. Worries and concerns that we've squeezed in the cranium and cranial muscles lifting up off the head and the face and the cranial muscles, even out of the brain itself, as we just let it sigh and surrender. Out of the face and sinuses. And any heaviness or angst that we've squeezed in and around the heart, lifting up off the chest and out of the back as well. But even as we enjoy these aspects of the unloading, it's always good to note that the unloading that occurs when we do these things is vastly deeper and wider and more profound than anything that we could ever consciously comprehend. So we don't need to control it or understand it or anything like this. We just let our whole being, our mind, our heart, everything that we are just sigh and let go and unload into the cleansing, magnetic, consuming fires that draw and lift and light whatever it is that we're ready to let go of. In that center of the mind, knowing it's safe to let go, to even lose ourselves in this unloading drift. Nice full breaths. Our whole field, our whole home is unloading. We just let it happen. Good. Now those magnetic consuming fires blazing up, intensifying 10 times over, deeply drawing whatever we've stirred up or churned up or that we're ready to let go of. As we just sit back and breathe and let, we start to find that we can let go in ways and in places deeper than we ever knew we existed. Just letting that unloading occur. In the center of the mind and the center of the heart, knowing that it is safe to let go, to lose ourselves in this unloading drift. Sometimes people even get a sense of free fall when they let the mind let go of control. And that's safe. We can just let these things happen. It's okay to get lost, to lose ourselves. Good. And that unloading can continue on some level, even as we let go of it on a conscious level, and rather now open to the full field assimilation of light. As we're just floating in this ocean of expanding radiance, being lifted and buoyed upon it, opened and lighted. As each releasing breath becomes a free fall into absolute safety and complete acceptance, there is nothing to measure up to here, just breath and light and opening. And the more we let go, the more light there is, or silken effortlessness, however we perceive these things. And there's no greater sense of surrender than the release of the full breaths and the sighs and the loosening yawns. It's that abject surrender that accompanies these things. The word nirvana, directly translated from Sanskrit, actually means an exhalation. It's that surrender. In the center of the mind and the center of the heart, knowing that it is safe to let go, to even lose our sense of self, lose the I and the me as we just free fall into this limitless ocean of nurturing, connected radiance that permeates the entire universe. And the science on all this is so beautiful as we just float in this nurturing safety. That center of the mind, knowing it is safe to let go, to again lose our sense of self, lose the I and the me, as we just melt into the ocean of light, letting it hold us dearly, soothe and nurture us on every level. Good. And as we continue floating in this light with the eyes closed, we'll slip into a mantra meditation. So the tip of the tongue is lightly touching the gum line behind the top two front teeth. Mouth is slightly open. And as we let ourselves be filled with a full abdominal breath that starts in the lower abdomen, fills all the way up through the airy fibers of the lungs, we'll count in our heads 1 through 5. So something along the lines of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But you can adjust it to make it fit with your breathing so that you don't feel like you're straining to breathe. You want it to be very natural, very effortless. So it's 1 through 5 on the full abdominal in breath. And then we continue counting 6 through 12 on the sighing exhalation. So it's a long sighing exhalation. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we can kind of drift on that 11, 12. We don't have to like jump right back to the 1 through 5. We want to really just kind of let go around this, let it be very natural and flowing. And so 1 through 5 on the full abdominal in breath, 6 through 12 on the sighing exhalations. Very natural, very effortless, just to enjoy the experience of it. 1 through 5 in, 6 through 12 out. And we start to go into a passenger mode where we just kind of let the breathing breathe us and we let the counting count us as we just relax around it and just enjoy the experience of it without even intellectualizing it. Just open-hearted presence. 1 through 5 in, 6 through 12 out. And it becomes as though we're infused with that lightness on the 1 through 5 in breath. We don't try, it just happens. And then on that 6 through 12 sighing exhalation, we become this nebulous, undefined, drifting radiance. 1 through 5 in, 6 through 12 out. Good. And as we finish the mantra meditation, one of the things that we notice is that our minds aren't spinning and bouncing around as much. And the science validates all this. When we breathe in this way, it slows down the heart, it slows down the brain, it slows down the cortisol, the stress chemicals moving through the body. And then there's just space for this natural life energy and this lightness of being. Excuse me. And so we don't feel rushed when we finish the mantra meditation. And so the mantra meditation can be a great standalone meditation just by itself. Just 15, 20 minutes of just 1 through 5 in, 6 through 12 out, relaxing around it, enjoying it, that heart-centered consciousness. But with the eyes still closed, now we'll move into Qigong tapping. So just keep your eyes closed. Just start tapping your fingertips and thumb tips around your calves and shins and knees, just going around and around the calves, shins, and knees. And the key to the Qigong tapping is to let our whole being, our mind, heart, back, shoulders, hands, wrists, fingers, everything just be so loose and supple that we just let this roll through us virtually effortlessly. And then it's like we're in a day spa. And we're just here to enjoy these soft, gentle explosions of sensation echoing through the field that we are as we just breathe and let go and just enjoy the sensation of it and really appreciate it, just like we would if somebody that we knew or cared about offered to give us a tapping massage like this. We would really show our gratitude, and we'd show it by just really appreciating it. We wouldn't let them go to all this trouble and then just go, yeah, it's okay. No, we'd really enjoy it. We'd really soak in the pleasure of it. And so part of this training is, we get all these multitudinous benefits. There's all kinds of things going on here. But part of it is we're just training ourselves to have a more intimate, compassionate relationship with ourselves and appreciate ourselves and the pleasure that we can give ourselves and really enjoying it, really appreciating it. And the science shows that gratitude consciousness is profoundly healing. And so all kinds of things happen as we do this and enjoy it. When the fingers tap the skin, through our course of interviewing scientists, we discovered that as the fingers tap the skin, that creates electricity. And that electricity taps through acupuncture points and through the fascia of the body. So we're getting all kinds of multidimensional benefits. Now we want to let this tapping be kind of erratic. The research shows it's even more beneficial when we don't quite know what's coming. And I think because it makes it more like somebody else is doing it, puts us more in the passenger mode when we just kind of let it happen organically. And again, very relaxed, just letting it roll through us. And now tapping up and down the thighs and coming at them from all angles. And those energy fingers don't stop at the fingertips. They go all the way through and far beyond. And it feels so good to just let it in. Let that tapping in, that vibration, and it's breaking up and shattering old calcified and rigidified aspects of our being. Every breath, just letting it in deeper, just to enjoy it. Feels so good. It's that cleansing vibration. So we're always letting go of everything that we are, letting the vibration vibrate through us. And like in the Tao Te Ching says, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. And our bodies are healing machines. And we're this expansive, growing radiance and lightness. And so as we tap and shatter all the old, we're just really in a mode where we're really opening to possibility and the pleasure of our existence. But again, not going into doer mode or yang mode where we're trying to make this tapping happen. We want to relax and just be here in the yin consciousness, just receiving that open heart-centered consciousness, just to enjoy this in the cosmic day spa. Nice. And then all over the abdomen and torso. And those energy fingers are tapping right through organs, ribs, heart, lungs, thymus, everything. And again, it just feels so good to let it in deep, let it shatter all that old stagnant stuff and allow space for inspiration and elation to expand through. And then letting those energy fingers just tap over and right through our opening heart, our big opening heart. Our heart is huge. It's not just that three-dimensional physical aspect that we think about. The heartmath.org research shows that our electromagnetic energy heart is detected as 16 feet away, 32 feet across in all directions. So it feels so good to just let that tapping, just tap right into our opening heart, just to enjoy it, to revel in the pleasure of it. And now the thymus gland, about halfway between the heart and throat, those energy fingers just going right through it. shattering all that old stagnant and calcified stuff that causes suppression and depression in this part of the body, so that there's space for that natural inspiration and elation to expand through us. Nice. And then up down the side under the arm there, getting up into the armpit a little bit. And those lymph nodes up and down the side are just loving this. And us enjoying them, enjoying this very healing state of consciousness. They just love to be enjoyed, noticed, and celebrated, just like everything in the universe does. And the science on this is so beautiful. So again, those lymph nodes, they're just shining in there. And we're just here to enjoy this sensation, this massage with them. Open-hearted consciousness. Nice. And then up and down the other side, just to revel in the pleasure, just to be open, present. Nice full breaths. Yawning anytime you feel like it. Nice. And then up around the collarbone and the shoulders, just exploring all these little nooks and crannies, just for the fun of it. Like when we were kids and we'd do stuff, just see what it'd feel like, just for fun. So it's not uncommon to hear Qigong masters refer to Qigong as a return to childlikeness, remembering how to enjoy these simple pleasures that we forgot how beautiful they were as we got older. We lost touch with that alpha meditative state, that open-hearted presence we had as children. But we can regain it all and regain all the benefits and the healing and all the things that we had as young children. And then over the shoulder and up and down that sagging arm and hand, just letting that arm sag out there, tapping it from all angles. And the more we let it sag, the deeper it lets the tapping in, and the more pleasure there is to enjoy, the deeper the massage is. But letting that striking arm sag too, it can be very effortless, kind of like a wet popping towel if we just let it relax. In Tai Chi, we call this Wu Wei, the effortless way. Man, we're just here in the spa just to celebrate and enjoy the pleasure of this. Nice. And then going over the other shoulder and up and down that sagging arm and hand. And again, the more we let it sag, the more it lets it in, the more pleasure there is to enjoy. And the striking arm sagging too, like a wet popping towel. Nice full breaths as we just enjoy the pleasure of it. Nice. And then over the shoulders, like thick raindrops falling. And it's so soothing when we just let it happen and just let it in. And up those two rows of muscles, back of the neck. And those energy fingers are going right through the spine. So this is an extraordinary sensation when we're really present. And up into the base of the skull and the back of the head. And as the whole field size, including the pineal gland in the center of the brain, just letting go of control, this vibration just becomes the universe. And it's a cleansing vibration. It's shattering all the old and rigid and calcified, allowing space for a newness and an openness and a possibility of being, new ways of experiencing ourselves in the world that are effervescent and fresh and filled with possibility. We don't even have to know what it is. We're just opening the runway of our consciousness to be open. Nice and lightly around the throat. And those energy fingers going right through throat and thyroid are loving this. And us enjoying them, enjoying this is a very healing state. That thyroid just starts shining in there. And there is nothing better than a happy thyroid. And as we get up into the face, it's so effervescent. Those energy fingers just going right through jaws, teeth, sinuses, eyes, brain, everything. And the more we let the face, there's just no limit to how much we can let the face slack and open to receive ever more of this kaleidoscopic pleasure. And the jaw slackening endlessly open, and the ears slackening open with them. The face behind the face letting this in. And as we play with these mindfulness practices, it becomes so increasingly apparent that every moment of our lives is about as beautiful and extraordinary as we decide we're going to let it be, or as mundane and meaningless as we decide it's going to be. So we can really revel in these pleasures, and it changes the way that we see the whole world. And then over the forehead, and those energy fingers are going right through the third eye, the pineal gland, center of the brain. And it feels so good to just let it in deep. Just to enjoy that massage, that vibration massage. And over the forehead and the temples and the skull and the scalp. Nice. And with the eyes still closed, just giving ourselves a little time here just to breathe and tingle. Float in this silken, effervescent, tingly radiance. Let the head and the heart let go of their rush and analysis so they can just marinate in this pure, nurturing light. And we can just enjoy the transition so that even as we do begin to become visual on anything but the computer screen, we don't fix or focus. If the eyes fix or focus, we just let them unfocus where we're seeing everything but nothing in particular. And then that's an easy step to just let the center of the mind let go of control, go into neutral, where we're present and we're feeling everything, but we're just not focused on any one thing. And that takes the mind more into alpha brainwave state, and that's that powerful healing state of consciousness that we were in most of the time as children. We could daydream and drift when we were children. We didn't have that urgency. And that was a very healing state. That's why we healed so fast. And we can regain all that. All the science shows this. So we can just float in this just for the fun of it. And this empty space and silence starts to become more and more beautiful as we play at it again and again and stop running from it. Just open-hearted presence. Good. Nice. All right. So I hope you enjoyed that. For some of you, if you found your mind wandering a lot while you were doing it, you weren't doing anything wrong. A lot of times, one of the things that'll happen is when we start, slowing things down with mind-body practices and mindfulness practices, is the first thing that we notice is how much we have bouncing around inside our mind and heart. And so, in the beginning, that happens more. But as we practice these things, there will be more space. There will be more, kind of relaxed coherence. But when all those things are coming through the mind, you're not wasting your time when you meditate because the brain scientists that we spoke to explain that when we have things rushing through our minds, sometimes when we meditate, that actually what that is it's an unloading process. The consciousness is unloading things that were bouncing around in there before, but we just never slowed down enough to notice that it was happening. And so that there's an unloading that's occurring when you do that. And so you just keep coming back to the breath and the sensations and the pleasure and the letting go. You don't criticize yourself or think bad about the spinning mind. You just keep coming back to the centering. And so it's not a war, it's just playing at it. And then over time, your brain starts to change and your brain waves start to change. And everything in your life changes as you start to become more comfortable with your meditation. So if you have difficulty with it, don't be one of those people that says, oh, meditation's not for me. I can't meditate. Because every one of us who learned how to meditate, we've all been through all that. And if I have a really tough day, a lot of stuff happens that's really challenging in a day, I'll have that happen to me. My mind will be bouncing around in a really severe way. But I know that if I stick with the process, the science shows it's going to change how I go through the rest of my day. And you'll notice you'll feel better after you do this. What I encourage people to do is to consider doing this twice a day. When I first started doing it, I tried to do it twice a day. And I got a calendar and put it on my refrigerator. And every time I would meditate in the morning, I would put an M. If I came home in the evening from work, and I meditated, I would put an M. And eventually you start to get M's, M, 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 and you don't want to mess it up. And so then you end up doing it for the whole month. And what I found is when I did that for 3 months with a calendar on my refrigerator, then it became a way of life. And I'm not saying that I haven't gotten away from it over the years, and I've always regretted that I did when I did. but I always had this lifeline to come back to so that I could find, more peace and coherence and quality of life. And so it's a lifetime that we cultivate, and then we can always come back to it, even if we drift away and get lost and get tangled up in life. We always have this lifeline that we can come back to that'll help us find this, this center of coherent consciousness. And so, 3 months, that's what psychologists say. If you do something for 3 months every day, it becomes a life pattern and then it will become part of your life. Now, this series is also going to have some moving Qigong, and I may have some Tai Chi as well, a Tai Chi short form for the foreseeable future. And I'm considering doing free donation-based Zoom classes, but I only have the basic Zoom right now. And so I would have to upgrade in order to have longer online Zoom classes. So if anybody is interested in the possibility of being part of these live Zoom classes that I'm envisioning, if you email me at WTCQD2000 at AOL.com. If you email me at that email address and put in the subject line interested in Bill's Zoom classes in the subject line, so I won't miss it, because I get tons of email from World Tai Chi Day, and I also organize the Global Transformation Project. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about in my classes, my focus is stress management, because stress is what gets most people, and and a lot of people are going through a lot of stress these days. Everything's changing so fast. We're all learning new things so fast. It's like our whole world is kind of in constant upheaval. And that's fine. It's like that's what change is, change, transformation, growth. Even being disillusioned is a good thing, because when we're disillusioned, then we're losing illusions and we're becoming more real. So all this is good. Everything's good. And really, I wanted to spend some time on this. I wrote a book called The Gospel of Science, the new second edition of the Gospel of Science, 700 pages of science on mind, body, and how it can really transform us and liberate the profound potential of human consciousness and human healing and human performance. And I've lived this myself as I've spoken to these scientists to put this book together, thrown myself back into mind body. And so I have a lot of videos. We have a YouTube channel at Global Transformation Project, all one word, no spaces, at Global Transformation Project. So if you search at Global Transformation Project and then Bill Douglas, two other words, Bill Douglas, it'll come up. You'll see a logo of me and a bunch of people doing a Tai Chi move with our hands up like this. Click on that logo. You can subscribe. It's free. And we have tons of free tutorials just like this one. And we explore dietary options that can, where if we remove certain things from our diet, that can really have a really powerful, healthful effect on our body. Saunas are great for us. I have science on saunas. I have some videos from Dr. Joe Dispenza about how our consciousness gets programmed. And, we're all programmed. We program ourselves, but he talks about the science on how we can change our programs, and it becomes life transformative. And my life really transformed from being aware of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work and how it fit with these mind body practices. And then we also have video of Bruce Lipton, famous cell biologist who wrote The Biology of Belief, how profoundly our consciousness states affect our DNA expression and all aspects of our health. So we have all that for free at Global Transformation Project on our YouTube channel. You can subscribe and tell other people about it. It's all free, just to help people, change their lives and have less stress and have more, better, greater life quality. But when you get into the science, it gets really beautiful, because what happens is when our consciousness goes into coherent states through meditative practices or nature, it actually ripples out and it affects the people around us, and it affects the city and the world around us. And so that science is really beautiful. And because of that, I get into actually the mainstream media. In fact, on our YouTube channel, I have a YouTube program from a young YouTuber, and the title of it was "Why I Stopped Watching the News and Why You Should Too." and uh, and it's really entertaining if you want to watch it at our channel. But I get into all this science in the Gospel of Science second edition, because what the programming, the media programming, has come to realize is that when we're in states of stress and anxiety or upset, it releases stress chemicals, and we get addicted to those stress chemicals. And so their viewership goes up when they can stimulate fear and disturbance in us. And what happens is we get a distorted picture of reality. So, for example, I'm going to tell you a couple of facts, and I have all the data, all the links in the Gospel of Science, but a couple of facts that'll change the way that you see the whole world in a really beautiful way. And one of them is that the planet Earth is actually vastly less violent than it's ever been before in human history. Now, I know there's conflicts going on in the world because we see them all day and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be concerned, about injustice and violence around the world. I've been a social activist my whole life, but I'm starting to come to terms with the reality that if we can have a coherent state of consciousness, that's going to actually benefit the planet. And the science on all this is really beautiful. So yeah, the planet is vastly less violent than it's ever been before in human history. Part of the reason for that, and you see the science in the book, is the spread of mind-body practices around the world. It actually affects the global consciousness. But the other thing is in the United States, our violent crime rates are at 40-year lows. Now, in my classes, I mention this, and people think I'm insane because they go, "Wait, don't you watch the news? It's just everything's so violent, it's all getting out of control. People are really dangerous." Because that's what you see on the programming. Not just the news programming, but the entertainment programming. It's always somebody saving us from, the evil, dangerous world, right? That's what all the scripts are. But it's not true. It's not true. And yeah, and I have the FBI data, and I also have United Nations data that shows that this is happening in many countries around the world. And so this is a really beautiful planet that we have here. And the people are really beautiful. And if you look at the public opinion polls, people are very compassionate. They're very kind. They're not ruthless like we get the impression from watching on the media. And so I highly encourage everybody to consider reading the second edition of the Gospel of Science. Now, what I realized is I had bought the ebook version, which is $9.99. And then when I went to buy the Audible version after I released the Audible version, it offered it to me for $1.99. So if you buy the ebook on Amazon Kindle of the Gospel of Science second edition, and then after you do that, then if you go back in and you buy the Audible book, it'll give you the Audible book for $1.99. So what that means is you can get the print version in the ebook, and then you can get the Audible book for less money than you would pay just for the Audible book. So that's quite a bargain. And then you can relax and listen to it while you're driving. Although I did have somebody from another state contact me, and she said she had gotten the Audible book because she wanted to listen to it while she was driving on her vacation. But she said she kept missing all of her exits because it was so engrossing. And I listen to it from time to time myself because I can't remember all this really hopeful, positive science that's in there. And we don't get it from popular culture. All we get is the fear-based stuff. And so I listen to that book once in a while because it reminds me. It reminds me of the incredible potential of our consciousness and our healing potential, just natural healing potential, and how beautiful the world is, and all the beautiful things that are happening in the world that we're never going to see on the news. And so I hope you'll take advantage of that. And again, if anybody's interested in possibly attending the free donation-based live Zoom classes, I've been doing them through hospitals for years. They've been changing people's lives. People get off all kinds of meds. They heal from things that they were told that they would never heal from. And I just see this happening over and over and over again. But the health systems that I work for, they don't pay any attention to it because they're pharmaceutical driven. So anything that doesn't make money doesn't make waves in the health system. I've been at it for 40 years now. And so that's another reason I decided to start doing these programs and offering these Zoom classes like I've offered through major health systems to the general public on a donation-based basis. And so any donations would be much appreciated because one thing I've learned is being a mind-body teacher, it's incredibly fulfilling to be able to help people with these tools that they're not being told about. But you don't get rich. You don't get rich doing it. So any donations, I don't want anybody to donate. If you feel like you can't afford to donate, please just come for free. Just come for free. I really want to get this stuff out there. But if you're in a position where you have a good retirement or whatever, and you can donate, the money will go to really good uses. We organize World Tai Chi Day. We've educated hundreds of millions of people around the planet on mind body through organizing World Tai Chi Day. WorldTaiChiDay.org is the website. And that's all volunteer. We volunteer our time. All that's been volunteer. There's no money being made there. And then also we're the founders of the Global Transformation Project, to try to get mind-body education as a core part of public education worldwide. And so you can go to globaltransformationproject.org. You can sign the petition. You can spread the petition with people that you know. And science shows that when we do things for the greater good, it actually has a healing effect on our own DNA. So it's a good habit to, be involved. And this is a really good cause, the Global Transformation Project, globaltransformationproject.org. So we donate our time to do all these things. We want to change the planet. We want to help. We want our grandchildren to have a more beautiful planet than we did. And we want everybody's grandchildren to have a more beautiful planet than we did. And it's all possible. The science shows that it's all possible. So any donations that you donate, it'll go to help these causes because we're volunteers and it enables us to do what we do. And we're creating a global campaign for a non-binding United Nations resolution to get the science on mind-body out to public educators around the world. Because once they see the science on what mind-body practices would offer their students and their education system, there's no rational teacher in the world that would look at that and go, "Oh, yeah, we don't want that." Well, I mean, just one little thing that science has shown is that regular meditators, their IQs go up 20 points. So their IQs go up 20 points. So what teacher wouldn't want their students to have 20-point higher IQs? And then, of course, it also boosts immunity. So it would boost global immunity, make us more immune to viruses all over the planet if school children were being taught this. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. And this will continue with a moving Qigong meditation. And so I'll explain all that when we get into this part 2. So thanks for coming along, and I hope you have a really good day. And I hope you tell people about these programs because we want as many people as possible to be going into coherent states of consciousness because that benefits everybody around the planet when that happens. Thank you very much. Take care. And out. Big breath in. Unloading. Just letting go of everything that we've stirred up here, right down into the earth. Good. One more. We teach Tai Chi and Qigong for the University of Kansas Hospital's Turning Point Center for Hope and Healing. When you start investigating the medical research that's been done on Tai Chi, you find that it makes the brain bigger. It's being used to help treat heart disease successfully, lower high blood pressure, help with type 2 diabetes, anxiety, depression, chronic pain issues. There's just a whole host of things that Tai Chi's been shown to help with. Shadow patterns.
After doing about 3-4 months of Tai Chi, I was no longer in pain. I was moving freely. I could mow my own lawn if I chose to, which often I don't. And I canceled the surgery on the other hip. It's just been like a miracle for me, sincerely.
What we always tell people is you do everything in conjunction with your physician, but let your physician know that you're practicing Tai Chi and meditation, and if they don't know about the medical research, show them the medical research on how Tai Chi and meditation can help their particular health issue.
It sort of improves blood flow and, on sort of a microscopic level. And so as a result, I find that I don't have like any of the numbness that most people associate with diabetes. I've discovered that my balance has got considerably better, and I just feel better. And the nice thing is, I'm able to cut back on some of my medications.
Because what's happened in some cases is people have gotten to the point where they didn't need the hypertension medication anymore. But then again, maybe some other people maybe need less hypertension medication. And it's going to vary from person to person. And it's also going to depend on how much people apply themselves to what we teach in the classes.
The biggest benefit I noticed is my balance. I've become a lot more conscious of the way I move. And since I have Parkinson's disease, I have a tendency to fall over, or fall backwards rather. And it really helps me to to be conscious of what I'm doing, the way I'm stepping, the way I'm moving.
And we see these things happening again and again and again, where people are getting really stunning benefits from Tai Chi and Qigong meditation. But most people don't know about it. They don't know about the medical research. And so the University of Kansas Hospital and Turning Point is really pioneering quite an extraordinary program here, because we're getting a lot of referrals from physicians now for people, you know, dealing with issues. And so Tai Chi and Qigong program becomes a significant complementary option to add to their ongoing treatments through the hospital. And as we're seeing in some of these cases, you know, people are seeing really amazing benefits.
If they could put a money value on what is being done here, it would be like a pill that was worth millions and millions of dollars. So people really need to think about that and take advantage of what's available here.
Okay, so we just finished the sitting medley meditation with the Neigong energy meditation, the guided visualization, the mantra meditation, and then also the Qigong tapping. And so now in my classes, I follow that up with the moving Qigong meditation. And so let me get you in position and we'll go through the moving meditation. Okay. So now feet are pretty close together. Now there's two physical references in Tai Chi and Qigong. One is the vertical axis. It's a rod of energy that runs from 12 and a half feet above us, right down through our core, 12 and a half feet below. And so that gives us a postural alignment, but it also gives us a way to relax and to sink under the support of the vertical axis. So we'll do that in a moment. The other physical reference I need to mention is the Dantian. If you put your thumb in your belly button and then your fingers touch below, that's about the level of your Dantian. It's an amorphous energy center, but it's our center of gravity. And so all great athletes move from the Dantian. So it'll really improve your balance for among many other things from practicing moving from the Dantian. So in a moment, we'll start doing rotations. Everything we do in Tai Chi, when people are doing Tai Chi movements, the masters, their awareness is in their Dantian. That's where all their movements come from. The arms and legs just follow the flow of the Dantian. And now for Tai Chi and Qigong teachers or any other mind-body teachers, yoga or whatever, one of the things that I've discovered from 50 years of practicing and teaching, and also spending years talking to scientists in consciousness and mind-body practices in the brain, is the realization that the precision of what we're teaching isn't the most important part. So I give students a lot of leeway in how they do these things. And in fact, I don't even watch students when they do them, because I encourage everybody to close their eyes. And so I close my eyes when I'm doing these things. And then I go into the heart-centered consciousness where I'm feeling the sensations. And I explained in the meditation video how powerful the heart-centered consciousness is. Science has been able to measure these things. And so when we close our eyes, it's easier to go into that heart-centered consciousness where we're just feeling. And Tai Chi and Qigong are very relaxed. Yoga can be very relaxed too, where we don't strain to stretch, but we relax into a larger, more expansive, more relaxed form. And so in my classes, what I'm doing is I'm feeling my own body, and I'm feeling my own body start to relax. I go into that heart-centered consciousness. And then I just speak to the students from what I'm feeling when I'm relaxing and feeling the body in motion. So I'm constantly encouraging them to come back into the heart-centered consciousness of feeling instead of thinking. And that's where you get the profound benefits from these practices from. And so all this can be adapted to your yoga or your Tai Chi or Qigong, whatever your form is. You don't have to do my form, but you can adopt these things that I've learned from scientists and from the practices. And so now with the feet fairly close together, just letting the eyes close easily and naturally, and just feeling how the feet just settle in, how the pads of the feet spread in our shoes or on the floor beneath us. Every breath, just letting everything we are just relax, letting the shoulders relax down away from the neck, feeling our hips relaxing, letting go, feeling our knees slightly unhinge. So as we breathe in, think of like a big full wave of breath filling us from the earth all the way up above us. And then on that sighing exhale, just feeling that wave washing down through us, everything we are, just letting go and unhinging and sinking onto the support of the vertical axis as the knees just slightly unhinge. And so the Chinese masters, they call this the sinking, where we just let go. We let everything let go. And we just let that vertical axis hold us up, but also root us deeply into the earth as we sink onto that vertical axis, flowing down through our open, hollow body, open, hollow feet, sheathing down into the earth below. And now the Dantian, with the eyes still closed, the Dantian is taking off in counterclockwise hip rotations. Now, of course, you can peek anytime you want to, but it's all simple and repetitive. So now we're just going into a mode where we're just enjoying the sensation. It's like the Dantian has a mind of its own in the center of the pelvis, and it's rotating us, and then we're just here to enjoy the ride as 50 trillion cells massage one another through this silken field of liquid lightness that we become. And all those deep skeletal muscles are sighing as we let go of each breath, being massaged by the bones moving effortlessly underneath them. All those muscles up through the back and between the shoulder blades and through the neck. As they sigh, they just let this massaging in deeper and deeper. So it's kind of like a hula hoop motion, but it's very effortless. Everything in Tai Chi and Qigong is very effortless. So again, the Dantian's rotating us, and we're just here to enjoy the massage. Nice full breaths, yawning anytime you feel like it. All those deep skeletal muscles, sighing with each exhale to just let this loosen and massage us ever more deeply and widely, just for the pleasure of it, that open heart consciousness. So not thinking about whether we're doing it right or wrong or anything. If our balance goes off and we have to tighten a little bit to catch our balance, that's okay. If the balance is really a big problem at this point, you can kind of soft focus on the floor if you need to, but you'll be able to do most of what we do today with the eyes closed. Just to go in and just enjoy getting loosened and open, breathing. Good. And now going the other direction and enjoying how different that is when we go the other way. It can feel a little stilted at first when we change directions, but as we breathe and relax into it, whole other aspects of us are getting loosened and open. And we're just here to just enjoy this gentle massage. Now, none of this should ever hurt. I always explain to my students, nothing that we do in here should ever hurt. So if anything does, like for example, this rotation, if something's discomforting about it, make the rotation smaller and easier and softer. Little by little, it'll start to get bigger and bigger. Whatever those things are that causes the discomfort, they'll start to evaporate and disappear over time as we play at these things. So it should all feel good. But as we breathe and relax, we often notice that the rotations start to get a little bigger and we can really enjoy the sensations of the hips getting loosened up and the lower back starting to get more liquid. And the internal organs can sigh and become more malleable and more massageable. Not to measure how well we do that, but just to enjoy the sensation of it. As we sigh, we just let the mind let go and just surrender into the waves of pleasure. The loosening and the opening. When we're feeling, we're not thinking, and when we're thinking, we're not feeling. And most of our minds are just spinning too much these days. And so the more we just let go and just enjoy the massage, just get lost in it. Very healing states to take these little breaks as we go through our day and week, to just celebrate the pleasure of our being. And all these 50 trillion cells, they respond so beautifully when we enjoy feeling our body. Good. And then with the feet about shoulder width apart, the knees are unhinged. And again, counterclockwise. And every breath, just letting that all that massaging and everything that we felt before is now going bigger and deeper and wider because of the open stance. But it's still just as effortless. And in fact, it may even be more effortless because the balance is so much easier when the feet are apart. Nice full breaths, sighing, all those muscles around the rib cage and through the breadth of the back as they sigh. Just feel it as they sigh. Those ribs start to get more loose and more open. The muscles inside of the rib cage can sigh as well. And the spine and the spinal fluid getting a nice loosening stir, like a cleansing swirl. And not just the physical spine, but the larger energy spine. And in fact, the larger energy body is getting swirled and loosened and opened all up through the hips and the pelvis and the solar plexus and the upper abdomen and the heart and the shoulders, the throat and the brain, just swirling right up through the top of the head, right up into the heavens as we just breathe and let go and just enjoy this sensation of just getting lost in this swirling uplift. As we get lost in this swirling uplift, our eyes tend to look up with our eyes closed. And the science shows that anytime we look up, whether with eyes closed or open, we go more into an alpha meditative state. So when I'm driving, I like to look up at the trees and the sky, or when I'm walking, just to get lost in the pleasure and the beauty of it, like these sensations right now. And all the internal organs are getting a nice massage. The heart and the lungs are getting a nice massage inside the moving torso. And we can just let them sigh and just let that massaging in ever deeper, just to enjoy it, not to measure it. Good. And now going the other direction and enjoying how different that is when we go the other way. It's like whole other planes and dimensions of sensation open for us to free fall into. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Nice. And now with the feet closer together, we're going to roll out the knees and ankles. And every breath, let the shoulders relax down away from the neck as we just let this swirling rotation flow up out of the earth, up through our liquefying body, hips, torso, just swirling right up into the heavens. So we become like the cylinder men out in front of the stores and the shopping centers that have the wind blowing through them. And they're just these liquid cylinders, just all loose and flowing. As we just breathe and enjoy what it does to us on its heavenly journey, unhinged on every level. Just to feel how nice that feels. Nice. And then going the other direction and enjoying how different that is when we go the other way. It's like whole other aspects of us getting loosened and open. Nice. And then interlacing the fingers and allowing ourselves to be elongated. And as that gentle traction pulls us up towards the heavens and we breathe and let go around it, we can actually feel the vertebrae relaxing up and away from one another. Not a making, but a letting. And enjoying how the shoulder blades slide a bit farther down the back as they continue to let go. Nice full breath in. Sighing into a side elongation, really soaking into the pleasure of that. Now breathing in on the way up and then soaking over to the other side, really soaking into the pleasure of those muscles gently stretching across the back and breathing in as we come up. Exhaling as we go to the other side. Those muscles gently stretching through the back and between the shoulder blades and through the neck. Just to soak into the pleasure of it. So always breathing in as we let ourselves elongate up and then exhaling into the side elongations. And as the hips and knees and ankles start to come unhinged, we become a supple reed that can bend in the wind, just to soak up against the edge of comfort, just for the pleasure of it. So as we play at these things, we're becoming more lithe and more flexible. Our brain's getting larger and more effective. Our immune system's getting profoundly boosted. Our DNA is healing on some levels, the DNA telomeres. We're becoming younger in many ways. And the science shows that regular meditators are biologically 12 years younger than other people their age. And we just do it just to soak up against the edge of comfort, just for the sheer pleasure of it. That's where we get all the benefits from just playing and enjoying, celebrating the sensations. Good. And now going into these upper body rotations, breathing into it, exhaling as we go around back, so we can really soak into the pleasure of that tension grit in the lower neck and upper shoulders as it gets ground up and opened up. It just feels exquisite when we're right in the center of it. And that's what these mindfulness practices teach us, is that when we're right in the center of an experience, not just Qigong, but anything, that's where the beauty and the magic is, when we're right in the center of it. Good. And now going the other direction. Sighing as we go around back there, really soaking into that pleasure, that tension grit in the lower neck and upper shoulders getting ground up and opened up. Nice. Nice full breath in. Exhale as we're elongated out and over. Knees bend more, rear sticks out more, and that takes pressure off the back. And then we can just sag into gravity's cleansing pull. Some of the weight of the world just slipping right out and off of us, layers and layers and layers of it, sagging, unloading, and the heart just sagging in the chest, unloading all those tight, heavy heart loads that I don't even realize I'm squeezing until I start to let them go. The very heart of the heart letting go. We become open-hearted, holding on to nothing, letting the earth just hug the loads right out of us. And the brain sagging in the skull, unloading all those tight, heavy thoughts it's been squeezed onto. The very roots of the brain sighing and sagging, unloading all that tight, heavy thoughts we've been squeezing. And enjoying how the scalp relaxes off the top of the skull as it's permeated by that tingly lightness pouring down through it. We remember this beautiful relationship that we have with the planet Earth. It's always hugging us all the time, just waiting for us to surrender into its embrace, to unload, to become unburdened, letting go of layers and layers with each breath. Good. And then slowly rolling back up until the hands are back up above the head. Nice full breath in. And on that sighing exhale, as the hands slowly descend down to the sides, we could feel the whole field letting go and opening all through and around us, even down into the earth below. And with the eyes still closed, just savoring this tingly lightness of being bubbling through everything that we are. It's very subtle, but it's really beautiful. Like a sensory aurora borealis, just for us to behold. Let the head and the heart let go of the rush and analysis so they can just marinate in this opening lightness. The masters call these moments of repose, where we just soak in the pleasure and the nourishing and the nurturing of this lightness in between the action parts. Just here for the pleasure of it. Mind and heart continuing to open, to just enjoy. Good. And then with the feet about shoulder width apart, or maybe even a little bit more, whatever feels comfortable. You want it to be comfortable. But the knees are a little bent. So this is called the horse stance. It's like you're sitting on a horse saddle, with your feet in the stirrups. So your feet are fairly parallel. And the vertical axis, that rod of energy flows from 12 and a half feet above us right down through our core, our empty hollow body, hollow hips and feet, sheathing down into the earth below. And so that's how we do these things. We just sink onto the vertical axis. And as the knees bend and you sink on the vertical axis, you lose some of the curve in your lower back. The tailbone kind of relaxes down when the knees bend. So you lose some of that curve in the lower back. And that's a great relief for everything: hips, knees, ankles, back, everything. This is a great posture, not just for Qigong and Tai Chi, but for everything. And then also, we're just being supported on this vertical axis. So every time we sigh, we're just letting go. And we know that it'll hold us up. And now the vertical axis and the dantian here in the upper pelvis, they begin to flow back and forth. So notice that I'm not leaning, but I'm just letting, it's kind of like scooting your bottom back and forth across the park bench. Your body stays stacked up, upright with the vertical axis. But it's not a rigid thing. It's just not leaning is all. And we let this dantian flow us back and forth. It's like it has a mind of its own. And we're just here to enjoy the ride. And let those hip muscles sigh as we sink through each hip, that vertical axis pouring down through our open hollow body and hip and foot, sheathing down into the earth like energy swords. We feel this ever greater sense of rooted connection with the earth. And those hip muscles sigh as we sink through each hip, and then that pelvis takes on a figure-8 motion. And we just let that figure-8 motion just loosen our core. We can let our eyes closed if they're not already. And we can just feel the hips and the core just surrendering to that loosening figure-8. And it sets off this swirling infinity symbol energy that washes through every level of our existence and consciousness, including mental, emotional, and physical. And all the levels of our being are sighing and surrendering all the tight and sharp and jagged and tangled edges into the swirling tides of this smoothing, soothing flow of liquefaction. As we become more and more like water, liquid and flowing and adaptable. There's a line in the Tao Te Ching, that we become more and more like water, liquid, flowing and adaptable, and nurturing to all things. We just become a positive, liquid, effortless flow in the universe. And it's fun to lose ourselves in this, like some kind of cosmic surfers, just letting these waves take us and swirl us and loosen and open us, knowing that it's safe to let go and let them take us as they swirl us up towards the lightness and openness of this purifying liquefaction. It's fun to just get lost in it. The pleasure, the liquidity. Good. And then just letting the dantian flow us back and forth, enjoying the massaging thump of the hands wherever they're striking. Like soft explosions, the sensation echoing through the field that we are. As the mind and the heart unhinge from analytical thought or even word thought, and we just get lost in this kaleidoscopic river of sensation, light and shadow, sound and vibration, the silken feeling of the air moving through our fingers and over our skin, and so many other things. We don't even want to name them, but just letting this river just take us, flow us, knowing that it's safe to let go. Like the great transcendentalist American poet Walt Whitman said, everything is on its way to someplace else. I can't tell you where that is. I can only tell you that it's somewhere good. And it's safe to just let go and get lost in it. And we can feel ourselves being pulled out and open in all directions, losing that constricted sense of self that's so easy to slip into. We remember what we are, which is large and loose, open and free, unbound. Feel it pulling us open. Feel ourselves remembering what we are, large and loose and free, unbound and unwound. It feels good. Good. And then with the feet still shoulder width apart, just letting everything jiggle. Knees give, dantians bounce, and everything's jiggling. And all those deep skeletal muscles are just sighing, just going liquid on the bones, massaging them from underneath. As even the bones in the bone marrow are being shaken out on that subatomic energy level, like dusty sheets in the wind, shaking out all that static tension they've held onto. And that bone energy, just like the rest of the field, it can breathe and discharge ever deeper layers of its static. And we don't know how it happens or where it goes, but we can sure enjoy the relief of it. Just letting that whole skeletal bone structure just sigh and go ever more liquid. When I first started doing this stuff, I thought these were nice relaxation suggestions, but that was all I thought it was. But then as I started teaching through hospitals, I would see amazing things. Like I had a student that had to go on some kind of pharmaceutical, and one of the side effects was a diminishing bone mass. And so her doctor had to watch her bone mass statistics religiously. And he was shocked because her bone mass was getting stronger during this treatment, not weaker. And he asked her, he said, "What are you doing? What have you been doing?" And she said, "Oh, I do this meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong stuff." And he goes, "Wow." He said, "You should tell people about this." And I started laughing because it's really doctors that should be telling people about this stuff, but they're not. And so we are. She's telling people and I'm telling people, and we're trying to tell as many people as possible. Just let that bone energy just breathe, just shake out all that. And that's just one instance in all my years in hospitals where I've seen people just blow their doctors' minds, but they don't really do anything with that information. It's all pharmaceutical driven in the doctor's office pretty much. So, but we can tell people about these things and you can share these videos. And so just letting these bones just sigh and breathe and go ever more liquid. And all the deep skeletal muscles through the whole body on the next sigh, they can all collectively sigh. And you just feel it. You don't try, you don't make, you just realize, oh yeah, things are getting looser. And the rib cage and the shoulder blades, as they sigh, those ribs just get ever looser and more open. And the muscles inside the rib cage sighing as well. And the cranium and cranial muscles, as they sigh, they start to jiggle a bit easier on the skull as they do. There's more space, more openness. And the facial muscles and facial bones and the sinuses beneath and behind them sighing and sloshing a bit easier back there as they do. And the ears and the inner ears, those tiny bones and muscles deep in the sides of the head sighing and sloshing. And the hinges of the jaw slackening ever more as they sigh and let go. And the brain's getting a nice jiggle up there. So just enjoy that sensation of that jiggling brain for a moment. And then on that next big sighing exhale, as we let the brain itself sigh, enjoying the give as it just goes more and more liquid, just sloshing around up there. And when that pineal gland in the center of the brain lets go of control, then everything lets go. There's no I and me when the pineal gland lets go of control. All we are is just the waves of pleasure, the sensation, just the experience, that open heart presence. And the old brain stem in the back, sighing and sloshing. And as we let that area sigh and slosh, it's continuing to shatter that old stagnant and calcified, remnants from our ancestors, the fight or flight response stuff that elicits panic in the back of the head. Because our ancestors, they had to hide from tigers and stuff, but we don't. And so it gets triggered in the modern world a lot of times when it's not really useful. And so we can let all that just kind of shatter in the old brain in the back of the head. Just let it slosh. Let it reform in a new way that's more functional and adaptive to our lives. And so the science shows that when we meditate regularly, it physically shrinks the stress and fear part of the brain. And we could all use a lot of that. So just letting that old brain just slosh because it feels good. Let it go. Let that safety vibrate through back there just because it feels good. And the spine and spinal fluid and all the miles and miles of nerves just being shaken out and dusted off as they too breathe and discharge the static they've held onto. So our whole sensory system can sigh and just shake out all that static tension dust. We don't make it happen, we just surrender. And it just feels good. And the solar plexus and the upper abdomen, as we let that nerve bundle in the upper abdomen just sigh and slosh. Feel it sloshing. We start to let go of that fear and panic stuff that we squeeze in that nerve bundle up in the upper abdomen. And we begin to become more and more open and vulnerable. And we realize that not only is that safe, but it's just an incredible relief to let go of all the defenses and the armor. My Tai Chi teacher would often say, we spend our lives bracing for a sucker punch that never comes. So that's all just wasted, constricted energy in the upper abdomen. And so we can let ourselves be open and vulnerable. And it's a much more exciting, more beautiful, adventurous way to live, to be open and vulnerable. And that allows space for it to slosh through the abdomen and the pelvic bowl and all the organs, the kidneys and adrenals and the lower back as they sigh. They're getting gently pummeled, they're getting a nice massage. And the organs up through the torso, sighing and sloshing. And the heart and the lungs as they sigh, we can feel them being gently pummeled in there, getting a nice massage. And the heart and the lungs and the aorta, they can just sigh and just let that massaging in ever deeper, just to enjoy it, not to measure it. And the arteries and capillaries and veins, and even the blood is being shaken out and dusted off. And it too can breathe and discharge the static that it's held onto. So one last series of shakes here, seeing just how absolutely liquid we can become. As we just go ragdoll, just letting these waves just rock and roll us like a ragdoll, and letting that pineal gland let go in the center of the brain. So we're just all out of control, just a bunch of wild, sloshing, jiggling ragdolls. And it feels so good not to be in control, just letting it take us. Just lost in the pleasure of it all. And another full breath in. And on that sighing exhale, eyes closed, but not moving. Just feeling that awakening. That tingly radiance bubbling through everything that we are. And we remember what we are, which is beings of light. Limitless and unfolding radiance. Let the head and the heart let go of their rush and analysis so they can just marinate in this tingly effervescence. Just breath and light and opening. Good. Good. So we can coast on this as we go through our day. And we can touch back into it from time to time, just placing the tip of the tongue up, full breaths. Long sighing exhales, allowing space for this openness and this lightness. So we can cultivate this in our lives and with profound implications. Now, I wanted to expose you to a Tai Chi short form that I created. My long form is about 15, 20 minutes, depending on how fast you do it. And but this short form I created originally for people with Parkinson's disease, and people got great benefit from it. I had people from all over the country that had Parkinson's talking to me about what a life changer these practices were. Uh, but but this can be applied to any form of Tai Chi. It doesn't have to be my form of Tai Chi. It's just this the consciousness state that we do it in that is really makes all the big difference. So even if you do or teach another style of Tai Chi or Qigong, you may be able to glean things from this because that's what I do. I study with other yoga, with other Tai Chi, Qigong teachers, yoga teachers, meditation teachers, and I glean things from their teaching that becomes part of my teaching. And so we can all do that. We're not competitors. We're not against each other. We're one big mind body family. Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, and we can all benefit from each other and contribute to each other. Okay, so this short form that I created, we start with our palms up and we're circling up over a big ball of energy out from the front over the back, coming down the back of the ball in front of us. So we're breathing in as the hands come up. Notice the elbows are a little bent. Everything's very relaxed. In Tai Chi and Qigong, everything's very relaxed. The Chinese call it song. It's a state of relaxation. It's not just physical, it's mental, emotional, it's a consciousness state, but it's also physical. So we're breathing in, and then as we exhale, we're just relaxing, coming down the back of the ball. Good. Now that exercise that we did where we're sinking back and forth from one leg to the other, we're using that right now. So as we circle up, we're sinking into the left leg, picking up the empty right heel and dropping it in at a 45-degree angle, and then sinking back into the right leg as we come down the back of the ball. Okay, so let's do that a couple times. So we're breathing in, drop the right heel in, exhale, sinking back. One more time. Breathing in, drop the heel in, exhale, sinking. Good. And then a big hug, like we're hugging a tree. And that left heel comes out and touches right when we strike palm. So the right hand is vertical, striking back here. And then the left hand's horizontal out in front. It's like you're holding a honeydew melon in front of your heart. Everything's very relaxed, very relaxed. Okay, so let's take it from the top. So we're breathing in. Exhale as we sink. Breathing in. Exhale as we sink. Strike palm. Right in front of the heart, very relaxed. And then we're going to reach up to that right front corner and grasp bird's tail, and the left toe is going to go cat corner behind at the same time, like that. And then we stroke that tail as we sink back, rolling off that right heel, bringing that foot back. Hands swing right up in front of the face. Turn the whole torso back to this right front corner. Place that right heel, and then feel a sinking as we sink forward. So we're not leaning, but our dantian's going forward. We're sinking into that right foot. And then the hands go up the dragon's neck, over the big dragon's head, under its jowls, coming back down the neck, rolling off the heel, and then sinking. And now we're going to grasp the bird's tail over to the left front corner. So the left hand's on top this time, right toe behind, stroking that tail, rolling off that left heel, bringing it back. Hands swing right in front of the face, turn the whole torso, place that left heel, feel the sinking, and then the green dragon rising from the water, up over its head, under its jowls, coming back down the neck, feet together, feel the sinking into the earth. Big breath in as we gather up all this energy. And now it's just washing through us. Brain fluid, spinal fluid, bone marrow, everything. It's all just energy being cleansed into the receiving earth. Good. Breath in as we come back up into the horse stance. So the feet are parallel. And then on the in breath, begin breathing in. Exhale. Breathing in. Exhale. So we breathe in when we move things. And then exhale as we sink. And then the upper body is relaxed. It kind of gets massaged by this flowing through us. Breath in. Feel the sinking and the expansion. Breath in. Feel the sinking into the earth. Breath in. Feel that sinking. And then the upper body kind of getting massaged as this flows through us. Breath in. Sinking, and then the expansion of the green dragon rising. We expand physically, mentally, emotionally. Let it sink us. Big breath in as we gather up all this energy. And then we're just letting the eyes close right at the end there where we're washed through. So the Tai Chi is done with the eyes open, but then that last cleansing downpour, I like to let the eyes close. Good. So with Tai Chi, we're practicing relaxing out of the way. And if you do a Tai Chi long form, it's about 95% of the ways the body can move. The short form is a lot of the ways that we can move, but the long form is even more. And so we're teaching us how to relax out of the way. And there was a great Tai Chi teacher on the East Coast named William C.C. Chin. And I saw him in an interview one time. And the interviewer was asking him about how he moves energy when he's doing his Tai Chi. And he said, "Oh, I don't move energy." He said, "Energy moves me." And so that's what we're playing at. We're playing at relaxing out of the way. And the repetition of our Tai Chi movements or Qigong movements or yoga movements, it becomes such cellular memory that then we can go into another mode and we're feeling the body being loosened and elongated and opened and just feeling the pleasure of it, whether it's Tai Chi, Qigong, or yoga or whatever. And then we go into that mindfulness, heart-centered consciousness where we're just enjoying the experience of it and letting it unfold in a very effortless way. And then we go into those higher states of consciousness, alpha brainwave states. So here we go. Just seeing how big and loose and open and free we can get. Letting it flow us, enjoying the flow of it, like some kind of cosmic surfers riding the waves that are loosening and opening us. And washed and cleansed right into the receiving earth. We have this beautiful relationship with the earth that's happy to take these loads. Good. And a breath in as we come up, out as we sink. And here we go. And feeling how elegant we are. Human beings are the most beautiful, elegant beings. In popular culture, we don't really see that. We're kind of painted as ugly and annoying, but we're really elegant and beautiful. And it's not about how I look to somebody else. It's about how it feels when we just relax out of the way of it and just let the flow us, just so that we can just enjoy the experience of our sensation, our existence, getting lost in the flow, expanded by it. We feel that state of grace, that elegance. So we start talking to ourselves in a more compassionate way as we play with these mindfulness practices. And we should, because we're beautiful and elegant, all of us. There's a great Tai Chi teacher that I had the pleasure of meeting, David Dorian Ross. He's one of the greatest Tai Chi champions, and he did PBS specials on Tai Chi. And we were doing an interview together one time, and he said something that really stuck with me my whole life since then. He said, Bill, he said, in all my years of doing Tai Chi and teaching Tai Chi, he said, I've never seen anybody doing Tai Chi that wasn't beautiful. Because when we're flowing in Tai Chi, we let go of our self-consciousness and we tune into the elegance and the flow and the beauty of our being. And that beauty just shines from us. Good. So one more time, breath in as we come up. Feel that sinking. And now just letting it take us. Big and loose, open and free. Nice. Very nice. Now in yoga, they have namaste. In Tai Chi, we cover our right fist with our left open hand, and then we bow to acknowledge each other and acknowledge that we've shared this energy together and that we're beautiful and that energy, your energy means something. My energy means something. We're a light in this planet. And so, again, I just wanted to remind you, if you would like to contribute to our efforts, email at WTCQD, World Tai Chi Qigong Day, Q for Qigong, WTCQD, and then 2000, WTCQD 2000 at AOL.com, and put something in the subject line about Bill, online Zoom class donation or something like that so that I'll notice it. And if we can get some donations going, then I will upgrade the Zoom platform so that we can have longer online free Zoom classes. It'll be donation based. I won't be charging for it as long as we can just cover that basic fee, fee of the Zoom classes. I'll keep it going. And so I just wanted to start offering this in case there were people out there that are dealing with the kind of stress that I'm seeing in my classes and people that I'm talking to, so that we can start coming together once a week on Thursday afternoons, if possible. I may make it a weekend if it's impossible for people to do it on Thursday afternoons. So let me know in your emails, and if you can donate. We'll tell you how you can donate through PayPal or something if you email us. And then also, I wanted to encourage everybody to get the Gospel of Science second edition. It's in paperback, ebook, and also it just came out on Audible not that long ago. And that'll give you a much more positive view of the world, science-based, reality-based view of the world. The world is not this fearful, apocalyptic place that we've been told. I get into all the science on media and how media, uses fear and upset to get more viewership. And we need to know about all these things. If we understand the game, then we can play the game and have some fun instead of being played by a game that adds to our stress without us even being aware of it. So the Gospel of Science second edition, it has all the science on mind, body, how powerfully it can change our lives. And at the end of this video, I will put a video of me at the gym shooting baskets. And after I talked to all these scientists, saw how powerful mind body could be, then I threw myself back into my own mind body practice, and with the knowledge that it could be much more powerful and expansive than I had realized before. And so now when I go to the gym, I shoot it. I was a horrible basketball player in school. Now I shoot at like an NBA level, and it just blows my mind. I feel like Harry Potter. And so I just show that not because of basketball, but it shows the power of our consciousness as we become aware and comfortable with the reality that our consciousness is much more powerful than we've been told. And it is. And I have all that science meticulously endnoted. And you can see a visual expression of that incredible focus that can be applied to our health, all aspects of our lives, our relationships, our business, everything that we do. And so it's the Gospel of Science second edition, available on Amazon. Most booksellers will have it as well. And then if you get a chance, go to worldtaichiday.org, join the free newsletter there. We'll keep you updated on mind-body science and mind-body happenings around the world. And then also, if you can sign the petition at globaltransformationproject.org, we're building a global movement to get mind-body education, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, mindfulness teachers all over the planet into their local schools, sharing their wisdom with local public school students, kindergarten through 12th grade. It would save the world trillions of dollars year after year. If you go to globaltransformationproject.org, you can see the science, you can see our supporters, some of the leading minds in the world, and you can add your name and support to it by signing the petition and sharing the petition with other people. We can change the world. The first step is realizing what's possible. The second step is realizing that it's possible if we believe it's possible. And then the third step is taking the action, sign the petition, share the petition. And we can change the world. We did that with World Tai Chi Day. We actually measurably changed the coherence of consciousness for the entire planet. And so does World Yoga Day, and so does World Peace Meditation Day. And all that science is in the new second edition of the Gospel of Science. So it'll give you a whole different, much more hopeful, beautiful way of seeing humanity's place in this world and in the future of our planet. And we really need this. We really need some positive awareness these days. And so you can be an advocate for truth and reality and, a more realistic, positive view of the possibilities of our planet and our lives by sharing these free resources. And in the description below the video, we'll have links to all these things as well. So thanks so much. Thanks for being part of this and sharing your energy with me as we do this. And I look forward to doing the live online Zoom classes in the future. If you and your friends and other people that you share this with are interested in doing a donations-based regular weekly online Zoom class. I do these through hospitals, but those are only open to people that have chronic health conditions. And so depression, anxiety, all the things that so many other people are dealing with, that's not accepted through the hospital class, only physical issues. So I wanted to create these Zoom classes on my own so that it would open it up to everybody. Because, we're all dealing with stress. Everything's changing really fast, and change isn't necessarily bad, but it's stressful. And so, if we can get together and take these mind-body breaks together, we not only change our consciousness and our health and our sense of well-being, but the science shows, and you'll see as mind-body people, we're ushering in a whole new world. And the more that we find our esteem, and for me personally, learning all that science gave me so much more esteem about this stuff. Because
Yeah.
like working in hospital settings and like you experienced in the education system, it's really easy to get beat down, because the systems I work for, I'm seeing people get healed from things in these classes on a regular basis.
Oh yeah, I
And,
bet.
and the institution pays no attention to it whatsoever.
No, of course not.
Yeah, because it doesn't
Yeah.
make anybody money.
Yeah.
And so it's really easy to lose your esteem about how valuable our own personal mind body practice is and how
Absolutely.
valuable we are as mind body teachers. Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, and mindfulness. We are incredible treasures at this moment in time in history, and the world really needs us. And we should be in every kindergarten class, every first grade class, every second grade class, third grade, all the way through 12th grade. It's just insane that this isn't happening, and we
Absolutely.
can all make it happen. And so we provided the petition so that we could get some soul force behind this, and we know the UN's open to it. So it's a matter of the mind body community finding our esteem and standing up and going, it's crazy that you're not utilizing us. And
Absolutely.
so
You seem to have many projects, so you keep busy for sure.
Well, one rolled into the other. The thing that World Tai Chi Day taught us was that their effect, especially, as it expanded and included yoga and meditation and mindfulness teachers and groups around the world. That really opened my eyes because I grew up in Western Kansas. I learned Tai Chi and Qigong meditation in California. And actually, I started studying a little bit of yoga back then in California too. And so I thought that this was just some kind of New York, LA thing, maybe London and Paris kind of thing. And, of
Yeah.
course, India and China, I thought everybody did it over there, and I was wrong about that. But but anyway, I was real naive. And then when we started organizing World Tai Chi Day, all of a sudden we started getting these videos of like massive World Tai Chi Day events in like Tehran, Iran. And in fact, all over Iran. There were like 14 cities in Iran that
Wow.
held these, really big. The one in Tehran was huge.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then all over South America and in Africa, all over Africa, people are doing this stuff.
Right on.
I had
Yeah.
no idea about that. And so that really woke me up. And I realized that mind body had spread all the way around the planet. And then I started digging into the research on consciousness because I did a presentation at Folsom Prison many years ago. Okay.
Oh my God. Hello and welcome to
Hey,
our Heal podcast. Very excited to have our guest here today, William Douglas. I don't know, you like to go by Bill better?
yeah. Well, I signed my book, William. So I like to get introduced as William, but then Bill is what I'm used to.
Of course.
I
Yeah.
thought William maybe it would make people think, oh, maybe this guy's smart enough to have something I need to read.
Bill and William sound smart, and what an amazing lifetime of achievements you have here. Really, I'm super impressed with all of the things that you have accomplished and done over probably a number of years. And I would love to talk more about all of the things that you have been doing, including the World Tai Chi Day. Maybe we could start there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you have any, did you want me to just kind of describe it or?
Yeah, whatever you think.
Okay, well, first of all, let me tell people what World Tai Chi Day is. World Tai Chi Day started in 1999, about 15
Wow.
years before the World Yoga Day. And
Mhm.
what happened was uh, both of my parents died of stress disease. And
Mhm.
and when I was learning this stuff, I was trying to get everybody that I knew to do it because it makes you feel so
Mhm.
good, you know?
Of course, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you become kind of like an evangelist. And but they never did it, and then and they eventually passed away from stress disease. And my mother had written a note the night before she passed away, and in the note she said, "I wish I could go back a few years and learn the arts of relaxation you were trying to teach me for a
Oh,
healthier life, so that I could have lived to see my grandchildren grow up." And so that note, it's like I read that, and I wasn't a teacher at the time. I was just telling my friends and family about this stuff. And then years later, I started teaching in major hospitals, and I got my first hospital class. And I was a pretty young teacher at the time. This was like almost 40 years ago. And I started these doctors. There were a bunch of old doctors. It wasn't for doctors; it was for the public. But a whole bunch of doctors were curious because it was kind of weird having yoga and tai chi and meditation.
yeah, back
So,
then, yes,
yeah,
for
back
sure.
then. Yeah, and so they were curious, and so they enrolled, and they were started getting off of these medications they'd been on for years. Chronic pain medications, uh, hypertension medication, stuff like that. It was blowing their minds. And so they started going to their data. This is before Google or before I knew about it. And they started going to their hospital database and they started doing research on Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation. Uh, and they started handing it to me because it was validating the, the healing that they were getting.
Yeah,
And so they were so excited about it. And when they first started handing it to me, I was thinking, why are they giving me this? I'm a Tai Chi teacher. I'm not a doctor, right? But
yeah.
that stack just started getting bigger and bigger. And eventually, what happened was there was a synchronicity because right when this started to happen, that's when Google came along. And then I was
Hmm.
able to start researching out, and I found out that there were tons of research on Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, and mindfulness. Dr. Herbert Benson at Harvard, he's the one, he wrote the relaxation response. That was like the first approach, scientific approach, Western scientific approach to this stuff. And so anyway,
And so sorry, all this research was done in before the 90s.
it was, yeah,
Oh,
that's
goodness.
correct. That's
Oh,
correct. There
wow.
was now
Um,
there's been a ton more research
of
since
course.
then. And
Yeah.
one little note that makes this even more amazing is that the NIH, that's where people go to get their funding for research.
Okay. Yeah.
The NIH, less than 0.5% of funding goes to research mind-body practices and alternative medicine,
I
right?
don't.
And
I'm
so
not
it's all
surprised.
pharmaceutical driven.
Yeah, of
And so,
course.
and so, so it's amazing that we have this mountain of science. There were researchers that were just dedicating themselves to making sure that people understood how profound these practices like Tai Chi and yoga and meditation and Qigong are. And so anyway, the synchronicity that occurred with me was that I started seeing these doctors healing from the same problems my parents were having. And right about that time, I was in my basement digging around looking for some old stuff. And I came across that note because my mother had died and written that many years before. I was pretty young when she died. And so I pulled that note out and, she said, I wish I could go back and learn this so I could live to see my grandchildren grow up. And so I realized that there were hundreds of millions of people around the planet, just like my parents, just like these old doctors that were enrolling in my mind body class.
That's
And
right.
so I started taking this science and I started sending it out to media all over the world. And I said, you guys need to be telling your readers and viewers about this, right?
Yeah.
Well, they weren't the least bit interested. They could care less. They could care less. And so I got so frustrated. And then one day I was in my backyard and I was meditating. And, you do your Tai Chi and Qigong and yoga and stuff, and you try to let go of all
Yeah.
that stuff. But that frustration was in me. And then all of a sudden, this idea popped into my head, and it said, Tai Chi is very visually spectacular. If you can get a mass of people doing Tai Chi in a
Yeah.
beautiful public location and then invite the media cameras, they won't be able to resist pointing their cameras at it. It'll be too much of a visual spectacle to ignore. And then
Yeah.
once you get that media microphone, you can tell the public about the science. And so what we did was we created a fractal. When we did that in Kansas City, we got 200 people to show up. All the local media covered it, and CNN picked it up. And then we started getting contacted by other Tai Chi groups, and they said, "Hey, we want to do this too." And so we ran to our computer and we found out we could get worldtaichiday.org. And so we grabbed it. And then the whole thing sprang from there. And what we did there was we created a fractal of what we did. So we put like a how-to, because I had written the Complete Idiot's Guide to Tai Chi and Qigong
That too, yes.
many years ago. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I wrote a complete idiot's guide to the Tai Chi, to how to organize, how to use World Tai Chi Day as a vehicle to expand your teaching in your community. And so we taught people, how do you organize an event? How do you get media to your event? How do you use that media microphone to tell about the science? And if you go to worldtaichiday.org and you look under the Tai Chi and Qigong tab, you'll see medical research. And if you go to that, you'll see medical research. What we have is we have 100 of the most common health issues that people face. And if you click on any one of them, like heart disease, what it'll do is it'll show you all the Tai Chi and Qigong, but also we've expanded it as this has grown, we've grown. And so now it has Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, and mindfulness, because those are the big five. Dr.
Yeah.
Herbert Benson, the big five at Harvard, and have lots of research behind them. And so you can go there and you can see how yoga will help treat your heart disease, or how meditation will help treat your heart disease, or how Tai
That's
Chi or Qigong.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so all these teachers were doing this all over the world. So we created this fractal, and it spread out all over the world. And over the course of these almost 27 years now, groups all over the world coming together and doing this, we've reached over 1 billion media readers and viewers with science on mind-body practices, because people are creating these public spectacles and then using the microphone like we did.
Yeah.
And we've gotten government bodies all over the world to officially proclaim World Tai Chi and Qigong Day. The National Congress of Brazil, the senates and legislatures and governors of like California, Texas, Alaska, California, New
Is
York.
Canada a country that's connected with the World Tai Chi Day?
What did you say?
Is Canada connected with the
Oh
World
yeah,
Tai
yeah.
Chi
There's
Day?
events all over Canada. Yeah, it's been covered on national Canadian media.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
great.
yeah. We have video of the national Canadian media talking about it, and yeah. And then one of the things that happened was that a lot of these groups around the world, they started inviting yoga teachers and meditation teachers and mindfulness teachers to their World Tai Chi and Qigong Day events, and so it became this multidisciplinary mind-body event. And then eventually the United Nations created the International Day of Yoga 15 years later. And we think that we inspired that, to be honest with you.
Sounds like it,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Yeah, so yoga and Tai Chi, when I first started doing Tai Chi, there was like a split between the Tai Chi and Qigong, like we were two separate things in competition
Okay.
or something. And even within the Tai Chi community, and I'm sure with yoga, it's the same thing.
For sure.
Different styles and schools
Yeah.
would look at each other like competition, and they looked at other teachers like competitors. And we tried to encourage all the organizers. We said, invite everybody in, invite other schools in, invite yoga people in, invite meditation people in. And so we were learning from events, because there were massive events like in Cairo, Egypt. There were thousands of people at their event, and their event went from the afternoon all the way to like midnight at night. And they had Sufi dancers at night. It was really spectacular. And
very
yeah,
cool.
and so they had yoga, meditation, mindfulness, and everything. And so we started, the whole thing just grew. Yeah.
What do they add into the like for mindfulness? So you have Tai Chi and Qigong, I know, and yoga and meditation, I know. In
Yeah.
mindfulness, is it more breath work practices, or it's a variety of things in mindfulness?
Yeah, well, I haven't like officially enrolled in John Kabat-Zinn's program, but I've followed him religiously on
Yeah.
YouTube. And so it seems like what the gist of it is being in the moment. And so what science is starting to talk about, if you go to heartmath.org, You can see some of the science on this. It's in my book. My book's free today if anybody sees this
Oh,
today.
very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on June 24th, 24th, that'll be the last day. It'll be free. It's been free for the last 4 days to celebrate World Yoga Day. And so it won't be free again until December 31st, World Peace Meditation Day. But
Okay.
everybody can get it free today if they see this video today.
Okay.
And uh, uh, we kind of lost track. What was it we were just talking about?
Oh my God. You were giving away the book you were talking about what are we talking about?
Uh,
The measure no, not the measurement, the World Tai Chi mindfulness.
yes, mindfulness. Okay. Yeah. So John, so it seems like the gist of John Kabat-Zinn's teaching is just being present. So I know one of
Yeah.
the exercises they do is they put a raisin in people's hands and they have them just
Interesting.
look at that raisin, and just look at it from different angles and see the light glinting off of it and the texture and everything, really looking at it and then really smelling it, you know. Really smell
Uh-huh.
on it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then they have them touch it, and feel it, feel the texture. And then
Yeah.
they have them place it in their mouth, but not eat it. And then feel it, so it's like that kind of thing. And so I'm
Okay.
always teaching my Tai Chi and Qigong students, it's like when you
Yeah.
take a sip of coffee or tea or water or whatever, do what I teach my grandchildren. I tell them, okay, now when you take that, do you feel that silky feeling in your mouth? Do you
Yeah.
feel that going down your throat? Do you feel
Really
that going
being in
into
the
your stomach?
present moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
I think yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong, I think what they are is they're really high level mindfulness practices
for sure. And
because the
using the
goal is to
body as a
feel.
tool more.
Yeah, and you're feeling.
Yeah.
The science calls it heart-centered consciousness, where you're feeling. So you're not in a beta brainwave, busy brainwave state. You're in an alpha brainwave state where you're in Tai Chi and Qigong. We call it Yin consciousness, where
Okay.
you're receiving, you're feeling. You're not actively engaged. And
Yeah.
so, like even with yoga poses, I applied this to my yoga poses. So it's like, yeah, I'm trying to do the yoga pose. But then I'm trying, as I'm doing the breath, I'm trying to just feel, feel it letting go. Feel. So
Yeah.
I'm not straining to stretch. I'm feeling it letting go. Yeah.
And feeling the movements between the postures, which is more like Tai Chi and Qigong, probably because you
Yeah.
have that constant flow of movement. But
Well, and then what is it? The sun salutation?
yes.
That's real Qigong-esque because you're
Yes,
flowing
I
from
bet.
one. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
My Tai Chi and Qigong has profoundly benefited from being exposed to yoga.
Well, to be honest, I haven't had a lot of experience with Tai Chi and Qigong, so small amounts. There was a man in another town in Costa Rica that I met. He was like a raw vegan guy, and he'd been doing Qigong and Tai Chi. He swore by it for years. So I did a little bit with him. I think it's beautiful practice. It just didn't happen to be that wasn't my practice, what I had the
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
knowledge of. But I
The
find
way.
any practice that brings peace and calmness and healing is beautiful. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the way that I approached yoga, in my case, for example, was I just looked at it like an extension and addition to my core Tai Chi and Qigong practice.
okay.
And then I just absorbed, things from yoga into my
Yeah,
Tai Chi and Qigong practice. And so yoga people can do the same thing with Qigong and it's easy to
exactly.
do, especially Qigong. Qigong's so much quicker to get the benefits from. Tai Chi takes a little
Yeah.
longer. Yeah.
And you teach Tai Chi and Qigong classes in person or online or anything?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, I have two public classes here in the Kansas City metro area through
yeah,
city governments. And I try to teach through city governments and hospitals and stuff because I don't want to have to worry
to
about
reach the most
liability
people.
insurance and rent and all
Uh-huh.
that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to show up and teach a class. But my mind body classes, I call them mind body classes. I've changed the name of it because when I called it Tai Chi, I would get these like really serious people that wanted to learn these Tai Chi forms that they'd seen on some TV show
Yeah.
or movie or something. And then they were all focused. And then there was no room, for
They kind of
consciousness
miss.
expansion and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so I started calling it mind body classes. And I teach classes through the University of Kansas Health System, Center for Turning Point Center for Hope and Healing, And those classes are free for anybody. They're Zoom classes, 2 days a week,
Oh, great.
and they're free to anybody in the world who suffers from a chronic health issue. So if anybody has
Okay.
a chronic health issue, they can look, Google University of Kansas Turning Point, and they'll find Bill Douglas, Bill Douglas mind body classes. And I teach what they are. The core of the core of them is Tai Chi and Qigong and Neigong energy meditation. So it's like a body scan. It's very similar to Vipassana yoga, from what I've been told.
Okay. Yeah.
Where you're going through the body and just letting different
Yes.
parts relax and allowing space for the prana or the chi. And so I take them
Mhm.
through that. And then when we do the moving Qigong meditations, I have them do that with their eyes closed, just real simple, gentle moving Qigong meditations, just to get, out of the rat race and into the body and into the breath,
Yeah.
into the feeling, the heart-centered consciousness. And then we do a Tai Chi short form in my hospital classes. It's just like 6, 7 movements. And I created it originally for people with Parkinson's disease. And it was very successful. It changed people's lives, they told me. And so I just use that for my hospital classes now. But I've also incorporated a lot of things from yoga. For example, we do a mantra meditation. It's a simple counting meditation. We count 1 through 5 as we let ourselves be filled with the breath, and then
Yes.
6 through 12 on the sighing exhalations. And then I'm invoking, the Qigong, letting go, song, letting go, letting go, letting go, like that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And so I've been able to weave some of the things from yoga into the classes, and people really like it.
I love that. That's really good. And can people that don't have a chronic condition be able to take those Zoom classes as well, or do you need
No,
to?
they're only open to people with chronic health issues, but
Okay.
they're free for people with chronic health issues. Yeah,
Okay.
I've thought about starting a Zoom class, but I just, I've been so busy organizing World Tai Chi Day and now the Global Transformation Project, and
You
so.
seem to have many projects, so you keep busy for sure.
Well, one rolled into the other. The thing that World Tai Chi Day taught us was that their effect, especially, as it expanded and included yoga and meditation and mindfulness teachers and groups around the world, that really opened my eyes because I grew up in Western Kansas. I learned Tai Chi and Qigong meditation in California. And actually, I started studying a little bit of yoga back then in California too. And so I thought that this was just some kind of New York, LA thing, maybe London and Paris kind of thing. And, of
Yeah.
course, India and China, I thought everybody did it over there, and I was wrong about that. But but anyway, I was real naive. And then when we started organizing World Tai Chi Day, all of a sudden we started getting these videos of like massive World Tai Chi Day events in like Tehran, Iran. And in fact, all over Iran. There were like 14 cities in Iran that held these, really big. The one in Tehran was huge.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then all over South America and in Africa, all over Africa, people are doing this stuff.
How long?
I had
Yes.
no idea about that. And so that really woke me up. And I realized that mind body had spread all the way around the planet. And then I started digging into the research on consciousness because I did a presentation at Folsom Prison many years ago. And I thought I was going to be introducing them to meditation and Tai Chi and Qigong, but they had already had a Tai Chi Cha program, which was a program that was created. I can't remember the guy's name, but it's Tai Chi Cha, CHIH, and Justin somebody. And he beautiful guy. I don't think he's alive anymore. But anyway, he created a Tai Chi program that wasn't martial. And he was able
Okay.
to, and because of that, he was able to get it into prisons because prisons won't let you teach martial arts, which
Uh-huh.
makes total sense to me. you know,
Yeah.
and so my Tai Chi is not martial. It's flow. It's
It's well.
flow,
Yeah.
and but it's powerful. And
Of
so anyway,
course.
I went to Folsom, and while I was there, I had a chance to talk to one of the inmates who was like an assistant teacher, and he was a fascinating guy. And he ended up getting out of Folsom eventually and becoming a Tai Chi Cha teacher. And he wrote on this extensively, and we published one of his articles on worldtaichiday.org. And he said that what they found during the 2 years of their Tai Chi Cha program was that the return to prison rates for the people in the Tai Chi Cha group, it had gone from 70%. That's the normally 70% of the people that get out of prison in
Come back.
right back in
Oh,
prison.
wow.
They went
Uh,
from the Tai Chi Cho group went from 70% down to 30%. That's huge.
unbelievable.
We could be emptying our
Huge.
prisons.
Yeah.
If we were
I
really
remember
teaching
reading that.
this,
Yes, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah, we could be emptying our saving trillions of
Yes,
dollars. And human misery, because when people go to prison, it doesn't just wrek their lives, it wrecks their whole family's
of
life.
course.
Yeah, so we could be solving these problems. And so anyway, but the thing that blew my mind about the Folsom data was that during that 2 years, the behavior rates, they call them incident rates. It's like fights, contraband, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the incident rates had dropped not just for the Tai Chi Cho group, but during that 2 years of the Tai Chi Cho program, the incident rates had improved for the entire prison.
So it's like a ripple effect,
That's
right?
exactly right. The Maharishi effect is what it is. That's what the
Uh-huh.
Transcendental Meditation Foundation. They've done tons of research on this, and I unearthed it all for this free Gospel of Science book I'm giving away today. And and what they found was that if you bring in the equivalent of 1% of a city's population of high level meditators, it dramatically reduces the violent crime rates for the whole city, emergency room visits, all that kind of stuff. And so the first big city they did was Washington, D.C. And they did the study during the high crime season in August, and they were going to bring in 1% of high level meditators. And they told and so the police chief, the police department was involved, and also a university. They do these with universities and police departments. And the police chief, he was real smug. He didn't believe it. He didn't think they were going to do it. And they told him that they were going to bring the violent crime rates down 20% by the time they got a 1% equivalent in meditating. And he wasn't buying it. Well, they ended up bringing the violent crime rate down 23%. 3% more
Nice.
than they said they were.
That's
And
right.
then they've done this study. All this science is in the Gospel of Science, second edition, and they replicated these studies. One of them was in 48 cities, and I have this data in the book and the links to the studies and everything. And they brought the violent crime rates down in all 48 of those cities as compared to control cities, and that beneficial effect lasted for 5 years. 5 years.
Wow.
So we could be solving all of our social
Right.
problems. What I realized as I was putting all the science together was that if we brought mind body teachers, all these great yoga teachers and Tai Chi teachers and meditation teachers, John Kabat-Zinn's group, Transcendental Meditation Foundation, all these groups, if we brought them into public education, created a
Yeah.
1 hour a day mind body class, it'd be like a fusion of PE and health science. And
Yes.
so for 1 hour a day from kindergarten through 12th grade, kids are getting this mind body, and it would solve all these ADHD problems the kids are having,
Oh, for
and all
sure.
the problems. Everybody's worried
Like
about kids
that.
being on technology all the time, what it's
Yes.
doing to kids' brains.
Oh, for
This would
sure.
solve all those problems. If they had 1 hour of contemplative mindfulness, and you would do it in a fun way, like I've taught in public
Yeah.
education. We do in Qigong, we have something called animal Qigong, where you pretend to be, like a lion or,
Okay. So it's like
whatever.
there's animal yoga kind of similar like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, yoga.
Yeah.
There's a yoga teacher that I've watched that teaches kids, and she's great
Okay.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we could all be doing this, and we could all be learning from each other, and then
Yeah.
sharing the science, and then the schools that have the biggest benefit, those teachers could be sharing with the other teachers, and we could literally solve the world's problems. And again, organizing World Tai Chi Day showed us there are effective mind-body teachers in every city on the planet. Though everything is in place. What people don't realize, and that includes most of my Tai Chi and Qigong community that I deal with, what they don't realize is what a pivotal place we're in as humanity. No generation, in all the generations of mind body teachers, no generation has had all this scientific validation of this stuff, of what this stuff can do. And most mind body teachers have no clue of how profound this stuff is. And when
Yeah.
I learned the science and I learned how profound it was, my potential for enjoying the benefits of mind body began to expand. And I'm able to do things I never thought. I'm almost 70 years old, and I can do things that I couldn't do, at my prime. And it's all
Yeah.
because of becoming aware of a larger possibility. And so most mind body teachers have no idea of the depth and the breadth of possibility of what they're teaching. And if they could learn that, if they could get the Gospel of Science second edition, which is free today,
Right.
and learn all
Right.
this science,
Amazing. I
it would
get it.
take their practice and their teaching to a whole other level. And then they would see why we need to get this into public education. And then they would be encouraging their students to go to globaltransformationproject.org and
Yeah.
sign the petition. We need signatures from people in every country all over the world
Mm.
because when we get 100,000 signatures, we really believe we should be able to get millions of signatures. I mean, there's so many hundreds of millions of people benefiting from mind body. They should pay it forward and sign this petition and get people to sign the
Of
petition.
course. Yeah.
And then if we take millions of signatures from all over the world, and what we're going to do is we're going to lobby every United Nations mission on the planet to become co-sponsors of a resolution advocating mind-body education, non-binding resolution. Nobody would be forced to do it. No country, no
Yeah.
student, nobody forced to do it. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But it'd be a non-binding resolution to get this science out to public educators all over the world to realize that they could be taking education to a whole other level because these mind-body practices, regular meditators, their IQs increased 20 points. Now, there can't be a sane teacher on the planet who would look at that and go, "Oh, we don't want that for our students."
Right. Exactly.
And while it's doing that, it's improving their GRE reading scores, their verbal fluency, just all levels, test scores, all levels. The research is in all this stuff. You can see a lot of it at globaltransformationproject.org. We have it there. And we also have some of the top minds in mind, body, and health and education who have signed on to this. And so you can feel real safe referring people to this to sign the petition. But we need to get mind body people all over the planet getting this petition signed so that we can get this to the United Nations, get the co-sponsors. And the reason that we realized we could do this is because when they created the International Day of Yoga,
Yeah.
that passed with a record number of co-sponsoring nations. 177 nations co-sponsored the International Day of Yoga. The world had never, ever come together over anything like they did for the International Day of Yoga. And it was done to increase global health and global harmony. So imagine 1 hour a day in public schools, mind, body, all over the planet. What would that do for health and harmony all over the planet? It would save trillions of dollars. The science is in on all this stuff every year. Every year we'd be saving trillions on healthcare, prison costs, police costs, all this stuff. So many pharmaceuticals people wouldn't need anymore. We'd be saving so much money with misery.
Well, myself, I'm a mind body teacher. I had Crohn's. I was also a public school teacher in Canada in Ontario. I got Crohn's disease in my second year of teaching. I took about 3 more years till I was diagnosed. Just testing. And then even when I was diagnosed, what did they put me on? NSAIDs, steroids,
Yep.
whatever you can imagine, and then medications on top of medications for the side effects. And when I went to my specialist and was talking about wanting to heal myself naturally, they didn't want to have anything to do with me. And then when I decided, I left my teaching job and all of these things behind while I was healing. And then I chose to come to Costa Rica. And when I came to Costa Rica, I got a little nervous. I thought, what if something happened? I don't know what the medical system is like here. So I said, maybe I should go to the specialist and get some medication just in case something happens. So I got in my last colonoscopy in the specialist, and they found zero trace of disease.
Wow.
And then they were interested in what I did.
That I hear that from students all the time about how the doctors are like that.
Right. They're just like, no, get away from us. And then all of a sudden they're like, interesting. What did you do? And then so I became very passionate. I was like my own science experiment, you start seeing
Same here. Same here. Yeah.
And then you want to help the world, and you realize those loved ones next to you, like your parents and like whatever, whoever, and they're not interested, and but there's billions of people on the planet. Then there's so many that want this information and maybe don't even know it's available, like all this science you're talking about. I'm so interested to go on to your page and take a look at it, because it's just like, it's everything I ever wanted to see,
It'll blow your mind. It'll blow your mind. At some point you should get the Gospel of Science second edition, because I actually listen to my own Audible book once in a while, because I can't remember everything that's in there. But when I hear all that again, it gives me such a much more hopeful view of who I am and what my potential is and what society's
Right.
potential, because because people get this real dismal picture of possibility in the
Uh-huh.
world.
It's true.
One of the
And
things,
that also creates its own ripple effect, no?
oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I always tell my students is stop watching corporate media, because
Yes.
it's all fear-based. Yeah, it's all
Yes.
fear-based, and this is all validated. I get into all
Yeah.
this in the Gospel of Science about
Yeah.
how media has figured out that fear sells. And so they try to make their programming just as terrifying as possible because it
Yes.
generates these stress chemicals, and then we get addicted to the stress chemicals, and then we keep coming back to watch more and more of it.
Yes.
And so I
Yes.
always tell my students, just start watching YouTube. It's like the jukebox of the universe. It's like you
Yes.
go in there, you can find so many fascinating things,
That's
about everything.
true.
And but I get into all this in the book, and like one of the things I do a lot of, or I used to do a lot of corporate stress management stuff. And one of the things I'd always talk about is I'd ask people, do you think the world's more violent than it has been before? Do you think violent crime's worse than it's been before? And they all raise their hand. Yeah, yeah, it is. Of course it is. I watch the news. Well, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's at 40-year lows. Violent crime rates are at 40-year lows in the United States. Nobody in the news ever tells anybody that. They never tell
That's
anybody,
crazy.
oh, you guys
Yes.
should really calm down and relax, because the world is way safer than it used to be. Like people that have little kids, they think child abduction rates are like through the roof. They're not. They're
Yes.
at lows. And I was doing a podcast on a yoga program, Healing Our Earth, out of India and
Yes.
the UK. And so there was a yoga teacher from India and a yoga teacher from the UK. And I was talking about this very same thing about how we can really help our students, find a more relaxing way of seeing the world.
Yes.
And if they knew the facts, like I was just talking about with violent crime rates are at 40-year lows. Well, right after I said that, it only took about 5 minutes for those two yoga teachers, the one in the UK and the one in India, to start talking. They were bemoaning how their empathy for their students, because of course their students are dealing with so much stress because, the streets are just so much more violent than they've used to be. This was only 5 minutes after I said that violent crime rates are at a 40-year low. So then after that program, I started doing some research on the UK and India because I knew in my book I had UN data that said violent crime rates are at 40-year lows in most of the world. But I thought, well, maybe UK and India is different because these ladies, they just heard me say that violent crime rates are 40-year lows, and here they are, bemoaning with their students. Because when we do that with our students, we're confirming a fearful
Yes.
unreality to our students. That's not
That's
our
true.
job. Our job is to
Yeah.
spread some truth and reality,
Yeah.
especially when it's relaxing and calming. So anyway,
Yes.
so I went on and I did some research. Yeah, no, violent crime rates are at decades lows in both India and the UK. But both of
Wow.
these teachers thought thought that the violent crime rates were through the roof because they watch the news all the time. And I told them the news is distorting this. And so what do? Well, when they go to their class and their students, because it happens in my classes, I'll go to class and I'll hear students, bemoaning, the sad state of the world and how out of control
Yes.
and violent and everything is. And I just correct them. Every time I hear them saying that, I say, you know what? That's not true. That's not true. What I say, that's not true, and you should stop watching the news
Yes.
because they're
Most
distorting
importantly,
they're distorting
yes.
the reality. But yeah, but I just told that Indian and UK yoga teacher 5 minutes later they were complaining about how violent the streets were. 5 minutes later, and that it wasn't from their personal lives. It was because they
Yes.
watch TV, they watch the news. That's how they
Of
get this
course. And they got caught
distorted
up in it
image.
as well.
Yeah.
Wow. And so I remember you saying about with the jail how they came to the conclusion that it was like it went from 70% going back to down to 30 or something
Yeah.
like this. I can't remember. Is
Yep.
that what you said?
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of how you got the science of that information. But in the hospital settings, when all this data was collected, what were they measuring?
Oh, well, like on our World Tai Chi Day site, we have science for 100 of the most common health issues. Yeah,
Okay.
so heart disease, ADD, ADHD, depression, anxiety.
Autoimmune conditions.
I'm sorry.
I said autoimmune
Oh yes,
conditions.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to teach a class through the university health system for people with fibromyalgia. And it was one thing I noticed, it was mostly women. It was almost all women. And the thing that I realized as I was teaching them is what they all had in common was they just weren't able to let go. They were very driven.
Yeah.
They were very driven. And there's nothing wrong with being driven. I'm driven too, but I have
Until
to
it takes control.
yeah, I got to make space. You know,
Yeah.
I have to
Me
do,
too.
yeah, I got to do the yoga. Got to do the Tai Chi. I got to do the
Yeah.
Qigong. I get saunas. Everybody should get saunas. The
Yeah.
science
Great
on
idea.
saunas is huge too.
What do you feel about ice plunges?
You know, I haven't had the nerve to do that, and I don't have access to it anyway.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
do
for
have
sure.
saunas.
Okay. Saunas is good for sure.
It's probably
But
great. I just,
did they test their heart rate and it had gone down? This
oh
is what
yeah,
I was wondering.
hypertension, all that stuff gets
Okay.
cured. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. No,
Very nice.
no. Dr. Herbert Benson's book, The Relaxation Response, that's the Bible of this stuff, really. And if you look at his book, what his research showed is that between 60 and 90% of the health issues people deal with are caused by stress and
For
best treated
sure.
or prevented by Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, and mindfulness. And
Isn't it
that was
amazing?
yeah,
What?
and that was validated by a 20-year study at Kaiser Permanente. And what they found was that 70% of the health issues that were sending patients to their doctors were caused by stress. And when I contacted Kaiser, because I was really excited about that because it fit with what I'd been reading with Herbert Benson and all this stuff, and uh, and so I contacted him and I talked to Dr. David Sabel at Kaiser, who was familiar with the research. And he said that number could go as high as 85%, depending on how you looked at the data. So basically, our whole health crisis, our whole economic crisis caused by our health system, because the United States, I think we're spending $5.5 trillion every year on healthcare.
Healthy.
All that could go away. All that could go away. The only prisons in the United States are private. They're money-making institutions. And the healthcare system is a massive money-making institution.
Yeah.
And so those two institutions, they're not going to be making very much money once we get mind body into public education, kindergarten through 12th grade. And that's the only
Yeah.
reason this hasn't happened because
That's what I was
there's
going to
no
say just
rational.
now. I'm like, do you think that's what is caused it to move slower or the
Yeah,
blockage
it's
because
all
of, yeah,
money. Yeah.
of course.
I actually got an interview with the New York Times Sunday magazine one time.
Yeah.
And it was right when World Tai Chi Day was really getting big, and I had all this science, and I started working with a writer who was writing this article for the New York Times Sunday magazine. That's the most read publication on the planet, or at least it was at that time. And I spent a week feeding her all this research, and she was so excited. I think she was thinking Pulitzer Prize. I think she was thinking she was going to get Pulitzer. And I was giving her all this data, all the research, all the sources and everything, because it's all in the Gospel of Science and the
Yeah.
sources. It's like a textbook. It's all meticulously endnoted, just like a textbook, so you
That's
can see all
amazing.
this where it all came from. But anyway, so I'm feeding her all this, and she's going to write this article it's going to talk about how, you know, we could end our healthcare crisis. We could be saving trillions of dollars every year. She's really excited about this. And then the mistake that I made was that I started bragging about it in our global newsletter because we have an open newsletter that anybody can sign up for, worldtaichiday.org. And so I started bragging about, oh, we're going to be in the New York Times. It's going to have this article. It's going to save the world trillions of dollars. It's going to really cut medical care costs, all this kind of stuff. Well, what I didn't realize was that like these pharmaceutical companies and stuff, they consider us the competition. I didn't realize that. I was naive at the time. And so
Yeah.
they watch what you're doing. And I mean, I can't prove this, but what I can tell you is that about 3 days before that article came out, I was talking to the reporter and she was very angry. Now, I didn't know her that well. You know, we'd had a pretty great relationship, me feeding her all the information and everything, but you know, we weren't like personal friends. I didn't know why she was mad. I thought maybe I did something wrong, you know? Well, anyway, what happened was this multi-page article that was going to change the world that she wrote, it had all got cut down to like three little paragraphs, really
Oh,
like one paragraph.
uh-huh.
None of the science was in it. And then, but I was still excited about being mentioned in the New York Times Sunday magazine. So I bought like 25 copies of the
Yeah.
magazine and I sent it out to, you know, friends, relatives and stuff. Well, anyway, I was in Scotland visiting somebody who I'd sent it to. And she said, "Have you looked at that magazine?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I read the article a bunch of times, you know." and and she said, "No, did you look at the magazine?" And I said, "No." And she pulled it out and started flipping through it. Well, there was a pharmaceutical company had bought a multi-page pharmaceutical ad, and it ate up all the column space.
Oh,
So the public got denied all this science.
wow. I mean, I'm not surprised,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
that's
money.
wild.
That's the only reason.
Yeah,
That's the only reason we're not teaching school kids how to do this stuff already.
of course.
All of us
Yeah.
who are teaching this stuff, we should be in there teaching, whoever we're comfortable with, high schoolers, kindergartners, whatever. Everybody's better at different things. But
Well,
yeah,
back then, I eventually left teaching at the time because, well, I told you I got the Crohn's, and then I was healing that, and I was trying in my healing and relaxation practices and yoga, meditation, everything I was learning. I was trying to implement that. I was the main phys ed and not meditation, phys ed and health teacher in schools. And so I started to implement like yoga, movement, and
that's great.
meditation and things like that with my classes. And I think it was going quite well. And I was reprimanded by my principal and told I wasn't allowed to implement it any longer.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that
so I
happens.
kind of hit my edge at that point, which is
Yeah, that
why I
would have
was,
been very frustrating.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
very frustrating.
Well, see, that's why we want to get the United Nations resolution
Of
because
course, yeah,
if we can get that United Nations resolution with all the science backing it, then all the educators like yourself, because there's people just doing just like what you were talking about.
yeah,
There are already
yeah.
teachers doing this in public schools
Well,
all over the
yes,
world.
I know a number of them now that are
Yeah,
doing
and
it
and
too.
and they're having great success. But if they
Yeah,
had that UN resolution backed with all that science, and they could take it into their board meetings or their teacher meetings or whatever, and they could say, "Oh, have you seen what the UN is recommending?" And they have all this
yeah,
science about how it's going to make our kids more intelligent. And so what we do is we take it all out of the esoteric realm. It's just hard science. And the hard science
right.
shows if we're
Yeah,
teaching kids how to meditate on a regular basis, their IQ is going to be 20 points higher. And any
yeah,
educator who tells you that they don't want kids with 20-point higher IQs should not be an educator. You know,
that's correct.
and our
I
goal is to make all of this more and more obvious.
Yes,
You know what I mean? Because it's all kind of subterfuged and, kind of
for
weird
sure.
how it's all happening. We want to just bring it right out in the open, say, look, the science is in on this. It's insane not to be teaching kids how to do this. They don't need to be on ADD and ADHD drugs most of the time. They don't need to be
Yeah,
on all this stuff.
yeah,
Antidepressants, the research shows meditation has the same biochemical benefits as pharmaceutical treatment without all the horrific side effects for depression.
exactly.
So there is no reason to have kids on antidepressants.
Agreed.
Yeah, probably,
Yeah,
maybe there's an exceptional case. I'm not going to say
of
blanket,
course.
but I'm saying the majority of these kids don't have to be on these medications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so implementing that into the public school system, is that what is the Global Transformation Project?
Yes. What we have is we have a petition, and we need to get mind body people all over the planet, yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, Qigong, mindfulness, all these groups, all these organizations, they need to be getting people to sign that petition. Now, once we get at least 100,000 signatures, but really in my mind, I just can't believe that we can't get millions of signatures on
Of
this.
course.
Once the mind body people start telling their students to go sign this, it can all happen so fast. So I always tell people, when they say, oh yeah, this should happen. I wonder why it's not happening. And then I'll say, well, have you signed the petition at Global Transformation Project? And they'll go, no. And I'll say, well, that's why it's not happening. Have you told your
Step
students
number
to sign
one.
it? No. Well, that's why it's not happening. Because once
Okay.
we get all the signatures, what we're going to do, me and my wife, we've committed ourselves. We're going to dedicate ourselves to lobbying every United Nations mission on the planet, every country's United Nations mission. We're going to lobby them. We're going to provide them all the science, showing what this could do for their school children, showing how it could save their society untold, millions or billions or trillions of dollars. And saved healthcare costs, prison costs, all that, police costs, all that kind of stuff. And then we're going to start getting co-sponsors. And then once we get a few co-sponsors, then we're going to, try to get those co-sponsors to help us get other co-sponsors so that we can get this up like with the International Day of Yoga. But the science is in it. It's also obvious. It's also ready to happen. And all really what it takes mostly is for us to envision this
Yes,
possibility because it all makes sense. The main
yes,
thing that holds me back from me, like when I talk to my fellow Tai Chi and Qigong people who don't get it, a lot of these people, I've worked with for years with World Tai Chi Day, and they don't get
yeah,
what I'm talking about. And I'm like, well, this can't happen unless we can expand our consciousness to see a larger
yes,
possibility for humanity. And that's what
absolutely.
our practices are designed to do.
And that's why it's so important not to get stuck in the fear and the like news and everything that we're
Absolutely.
talking about, having that visualization of the vision of what
Yeah.
you want to implement. That's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's what globaltransformationproject.org is. It has the petition. Everybody should just be making that part of their social media habit. Have you signed the petition?
Yes, I'm
globaltransformationproject.org.
definitely, it's going to be a part of mine, that's for sure. And is
Yeah,
that how people get involved then? Is just by signing the petition
yeah.
right now?
Well, when they sign the petition, then they will get updates from us
Okay,
occasionally. We
okay.
we try not to send a huge number of them out, but
Yeah,
we want to keep people posted. Now we also have other things people can do. We always like with World Tai Chi Day. We always urged everybody just look at the website, look at the science. You'll be an expert. We've got it all there, and then just
yeah,
consider yourself an ambassador for the Global Transformation Project. And so then, whenever you do interviews or if you're doing a class or something, you can tell people about it, tell students about it, and it'll give them a hopeful view of the future of the planet. To know all we've got to do is get,
absolutely.
just let them know all we got to do is get mind, body, and public education. It's going to solve so many of our problems. And then that way they don't have this dismal apocalyptic view of the future because the science shows that the biggest indicator, they did like a 20-year study, and the biggest indicator of what our future is going to be is our chronic everyday vision of what we think our future is going to be. And so
Yeah,
the people who saw themselves as decrepit and sick as they got older, they
will
got
be
decrepit
decrepit.
and sick, right?
Yes,
But the ones who
yeah.
didn't see that and had a new vision. So I'm constantly, changing my vision. And I encourage all my students to watch Dr. Joe Dispenza on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yep.
how we get
And
programmed and
he
how we
speaks,
re
yeah, I like, he can connect to a lot of people the way he talks is for
Because see, I
sure.
think the mind body stuff it's designed to get us to constantly let go.
Yes,
Let go, let go, let go, let go, let go, let go, let go of every. In the Tao Te Ching, it says, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." And so,
absolutely.
so Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's talking about envisioning what we want to be, what world we want to have,
And
and
whose quote is it? That's be the change we want to see in the world. Who is
yeah,
that?
right, right. And so, yeah, and so the mind body practices are, combined with that, Dr. Joe Dispenza reprogramming how we program
Yes,
ourselves in our
yes,
future. All that is shown scientifically to be able to usher in this new world. And and the thing is, it would be so cheap to bring. It would be so inexpensive. It would be such a non-big deal for schools to be bringing mind body teachers in to become part of public education 1 hour a day. It'd take a lot of mind body teachers, to teach K
and
through 12.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, it would
And
employ,
it would not only improve their grade scores, like you said, but it's going to improve everything, like like the way that they interact with each other, probably like things like bullying and things. The
oh
way that
yeah.
they talk, probably they would be going down significantly as well, right?
Yeah, Global Transformation Project, we have a page that shows where mind body is already being implemented in public schools. And invariably the bullying rates go down, just like at Folsom
Oh,
Prison. And what
yeah,
happens is when we go into alpha state, in Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, if we do them all in that mindful state, where we're, really feeling the
yeah,
breath, feeling the sensation, then the brain starts to go into alpha brainwave state. And what the science shows is that when we go into alpha brainwave state on a regular basis, two significant, well, lots of things, but two really significant things happen in the brain. One is the stress and fear part of the brain actually physically shrinks. So it's
that
not just like,
that's
yeah, so
amazing.
it's
Yeah.
cumulative. It's not like we're just calming ourselves when we meditate. We're changing our brain to be less fearful and less panicked,
Makes
actually
so much
changing it.
sense.
And then the other significant thing is the empathy and compassion parts of the brain get larger.
Yeah, that also makes sense.
Yeah. So, like with the Global Transformation Project, it's purely scientific. We keep it purely scientific because we're trying to get into schools. So, we don't want
Yeah.
to fudge it with anything else. But if you just stop and think about it, as we get this stuff into public education on a massive scale, what it is, it's going to be the equivalent of a mass global spiritual awakening
Okay.
because
Yeah.
the empathy and
Amazing.
compassion parts of people's brains all over the planet. And then another thing that happened, and this will be really interesting to your yoga viewers. I always ask people, what does World Tai Chi Day, World Yoga Day, and World Peace Meditation Day all have in common? Well, Princeton University Engineering and Anomalies Research uh, Laboratory, they discovered that people's consciousness could affect computers. And they designed these computers that would be sensitive to people's consciousness, and they put them all over the planet. And the first thing that they found was during Princess Diana's funeral, when the whole planet, because she was pretty beloved around the planet. And so when the whole
Absolutely.
planet kind of, their consciousness all came together around Princess Diana's funeral, their computers went off track. They called it a departure from expectation. And what that showed was an increase in coherence in global consciousness. But then they started looking at uh, global consciousness events like World Tai Chi Day or World Yoga Day or World Peace Meditation Day. And
Yeah.
what they found was that when people went into states of compassion and healing, which is what these kind of events are all about, it sent their computers off track. And they realized that when people's consciousness is in a state of connection and healing and compassion, in a global event,
Yeah.
that is more powerful than when people's consciousness is in states of fear and stress. So we're
So
most
it's even
powerful.
stronger,
Yeah, we're
the
we're
positive.
we're stronger when we're in states of connection and compassion. And what is yoga? Yoga means union. Tai Chi is same thing. Tai Chi was
Yeah.
the universe before the Big Bang. I'm not talking about the physical
Yeah.
exercise, but the Tai
Yeah.
Chi, it was the universe before the Big Bang when everything was one, like in yoga,
Hmm.
union. And so that's what these things are designed to do is to cultivate union in consciousness, in the body and mind, and in society and throughout. And so the science shows that that's when we're in our most powerful state. And so World Yoga Day, World Tai Chi Day, and World Peace Meditation Day, they all measurably increase coherence in global consciousness. And
Amazing. Yeah.
The TM Foundation research shows us what happens when that happens is your violent crime rates go down. People start getting along together better, you know? People start
Yeah.
finding how to flow together instead of,
Yeah.
doing that all the time. Yeah, and it's already happening. It's already happening because, like I was saying, violent crime rates are at 40-year lows all over the planet, and that's related to the spread of yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong and meditation and mindfulness all over the planet. And I credit, anytime I get a chance to, I credit the Beatles a lot for that because the
Yeah.
Beatles, yeah,
Yeah.
people that are younger than me, they don't grasp what a phenomenon the Beatles were. There was nobody in history that was looked at by the whole planet and really adored, by people, kids all over
Yeah.
the planet, like the Beatles. They were this whole phenomenon. And
And they did the transcendental meditation, right?
right, yeah, George Harrison, he said, we were four working class kids, and all of a sudden we could buy anything. We could buy anything and everything that we wanted. And what we realized was that doesn't make you happy. And so we
Yes.
were trying to figure out how to find happiness. And that led them to the Maharishi and to India. And so all the media cameras in the world followed the Beatles to India. And so there were kids all over the world like me, in Western Kansas, that little Western Kansas farm town. Kids like me were looking at this and they were going, wow, what's this meditation thing?
Yeah.
And so yeah, the Beatles, and of course their songs, they sang about all this stuff all the time.
Amazing.
Their songs lyrics had the word love over
All you
600
need is
times.
love. Isn't that the Beatles lyrics?
Exactly. Yeah, 600 times they use the word love in their lyrics. That's why
Wow.
the world loved them, because they sang about
Yeah.
love all the time. Yeah.
How beautiful.
Yeah, and it was started by two boys, John Lennon and Paul McCartney, who both lost their mothers when they were boys.
Oh, I
So
didn't know that. That's
yeah, so
interesting.
love is what they were looking for.
Yeah.
That was their whole
Wow.
journey.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so
I feel like we got a lot of good information here today.
yeah, so as mind body people, we're ushering in a whole new world. And the more that we find our esteem, and for me personally, learning all that science gave me so much more esteem about this stuff. Because
Yeah.
like working in hospital settings and like you experienced in the education system, it's really easy to get beat down, because the systems I work for, I'm seeing people get healed from things in these classes on a regular basis.
Oh yeah, I
And,
bet.
and the institution pays no attention to it whatsoever.
No, of course not.
Yeah, because it doesn't
Yeah.
make anybody money.
Yeah.
And so it's really easy to lose your esteem about how valuable our own personal mind body practice is and how
Absolutely.
valuable we are as mind body teachers. Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, and mindfulness. We are incredible treasures at this moment in time in history, and the world really needs us. And we should be in every kindergarten class, every first grade class, every second grade class, third grade, all the way through 12th grade. It's just insane that this isn't happening, and we
Absolutely.
can all make it happen. And so we provided the petition so that we could get some soul force behind this, and we know the UN's open to it. So it's a matter of the mind body community finding our esteem and standing up and going, it's crazy that you're not utilizing us. And
Absolutely. That's great. For sure. Well, thank you so much. I hope that I'm going to get all this information put up, and I hope that people will come and sign. I'm going to keep sharing, and I will share with all my mind body
cool.
friends and colleagues so that we can continue to build this vision because I think it's a beautiful one.
That would be great. Yeah, and I'd love to
Yeah.
add to, we have that section where we have all the leading scientists and educators and
Yeah.
stuff. And you have a background in education, and then plus your mind body. And
Yeah.
we'd love to get well, I already put you on because I talked to you about that.
You might have. I
I
think
think
you
I
might have
did. Yeah, I
actually.
think
Yeah.
if you go to the link, you'll see that I've got you up there. But I
Yeah.
want to put your podcast on there as well. I was thinking we could put
Okay,
a link
great.
to your podcast. Yeah,
Yeah.
Heal. That'd be great. Have you seen that documentary, Heal?
I don't know. I feel like I
Oh,
have
you
seen
got to watch it. You got to watch it. One of my
it.
students got me to watch it. He
Okay.
found he found out I hadn't seen it. He said, "Oh my God, Bill!" He goes, "You got to watch this." He goes, "It's everything you talk about every week," and
Beautiful.
and it's an incredible documentary. And so since I've seen it, I saw it on Amazon Prime. I think it's still on Amazon Prime. But I've been, almost demanding that all my students watch it.
Yeah,
It's,
okay. I'm gonna
see, one of the
definitely take a
problem,
look.
yeah, one of the biggest problem I'm having in my hospital classes is people's consciousness doors are closed because they've been conditioned to think that, all this science that I'm telling them about and
Mhm.
everything, that they can heal, that they very well may be able to heal from these conditions they have, and their
Yeah.
doctors should know about this, so they can change their medication if they need to or whatever. They won't believe it, and if they don't believe it, then the door slams shut. Even though I'm
Well, I
teaching
think
great.
I might have been that person before I actually healed. I was that person, I think.
There you
I had
go.
a really hard time. I was the kind of girl that left the yoga class before Shavasana. Like
Right.
I I saw it as a workout and not a relaxation practice
Mhm.
or something. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so yeah, I was that, and I realized, and it wasn't until I met my meditation teacher Jivasu, who has a lot of. He's also a medical doctor, and so he has a lot of the medical research that
Oh,
would kind of
that's a treasure.
prove, like proving the
Oh,
point of meditation.
he should be on our supporters page too.
I'll definitely send it to him. And he kind of opened my eyes because I was very sciencey minded back
Yep.
then. And so once I started seeing those connections, it helped me to open my little door. And then
See,
when I started realizing, wow, like this part, like the Shavasana was probably the most important part of the yoga
yeah.
class, and
Yeah,
the
right, right.
meditation and the
Yeah, it
breath work,
shifts everything.
the symptoms started going down. I never had relieved the pain like in my belly and colon
Uh-huh.
area until
Uh-huh.
I started practicing breath work and meditation. Like all of this is just so beautiful. But I just wanted to say I
It's
was that person.
extraordinary.
So I think everyone can change if I could.
Yeah, yeah, it's extraordinary. And that's why I had to start, that's why I decided to start giving away the Gospel of Science second edition on every World Tai Chi Day, World Yoga Day, and World Peace Meditation Day, because it was just so incredibly frustrating to me that people were being denied this science, and if they
Yeah.
didn't come across a doctor like your doctor, and they're
Yeah.
rare, trust me, they're very
Yeah.
rare.
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah. For
but
sure.
I
I
had
imagine.
just to give you an example of what I deal with is in one of my hospital classes, I had a student, and one day she'd been doing the class for a few months, and one day she came in real concerned, and she asked me, she said, "Do these things give people low blood pressure?" And I said, "Well, no, not that I've ever heard of." And then I realized what was going on, because I'd had this happen to me several other times over the years. I said, "Are you on hypertension meds?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Well," I said, "you need to talk to your doctor," because I said, what may be happening is that the practices that you're doing in here are making your blood pressure normal. But the
Yeah.
blood pressure medication, it doesn't understand normal. All it
Yeah.
knows is make blood pressure lower. And so what's happening is you're getting normal blood pressure from practice, from all this stuff we're doing in here. But your blood pressure medication is making it too low now. And so
Too
talk to
low.
your doctor, and he'll probably adjust your dosage. And so
Yes.
then a week later, she comes back in. She's all stressed out. And she said he wouldn't lower my medication. He refused to. He said he'd put me on a different medication, but same dosage. And he kept her on that same dosage. And because she had had such acute hypertension, they had her monitored. She was being computer monitored, you know what I mean, on a regular basis, like a
Yes.
daily basis. And so she was chronically low blood pressure. That's not good for you. That's not
No.
good. That is not good for you to
Yeah.
be walking around with low blood pressure. And anyway, this dynamic between me and her doctor, it was too stressful for her. So guess what
Cool.
she did? She dropped out of the class so that she would keep the high blood pressure, and she could keep taking the hypertension meds that her doctor wanted her to take. That
Because
was
he
how
didn't want her to
that was
not.
how
Yes.
how twisted is this?
That's so
This is so
twisted.
friggin' twisted. And then I had a doctor in one of my classes, one of my hospital classes, and he was going through all kinds of stuff. He was imploding, and
Yeah.
and it was because he was locked in his head all the time. I can almost see people almost wear it on their faces,
No,
and
for sure.
yeah, you can
Yeah.
see it. You can see why
Yeah.
everything's going haywire inside.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so so he, he was trying to rehab from something, and he started lifting weights. And I said, "You know what?" I said, "I wouldn't be lifting weights right now." He said, "What I'd just be doing the Tai Chi and the Qigong. It's real low impact. It'll build up your strength, and then you can ease into larger exercises later on." Well, he ignored me, and he gave himself a hernia. And so he had this hernia. So then he had to go get hernia surgery. And so he goes in to get hernia surgery, and he's got an abdominal incision. And he said, "I'm doing the meditation." He came to the Zoom class. He said, "I'm doing the meditation," but he said, "I'm not going to do the moving qigong. I've got this incision." And I said, "Well," I said, "let me tell you a little story. Many years ago, I got way away from all my mind body practice, and I just had really bad life habits, drinking too much, all that stuff. And I got myself into a situation where I had to go have emergency surgery. I had to go to Mexico because I didn't have health insurance. Small businesses couldn't really afford health insurance in the United States at that
Yeah.
time. So I ended up going to Mexico, and I got an abdominal surgery, an emergency abdominal surgery. Now I changed my life after that. I dove back into my mind body practice. But anyway, when I was in the hospital, I had this abdominal incision, and I was doing my meditation, like Vipassana yoga, the Negong energy meditation. And then I would get out of my hospital bed and I would do these really gentle moving Qigong, rotations and movements, just real gentle, because I had an incision. Well, anyway, this went on for a few days. And all of a sudden, my Mexican doctor, my surgeon, he started bringing other doctors into the room, and they were all standing over me, speaking Spanish, looking at me. And I started getting worried. I was thinking, "Oh my God, what's going on here?"
This
And
isn't
so,
good.
so after they left, I asked the nurse, because the nurse was pretty bilingual, and I said, "How come he's bringing all these doctors in here?" And he said, he said he's been bringing them in here because he has never seen an incision heal as fast as your incision healed.
Wow, that's really good
Yeah.
news.
And so I had this doctor in my class who just had hernia surgery, right? And I
Yeah,
said, okay, I said, look, I said, he said, I can't do the Qigong, and I said, look, I said, and I told him this story about what happened to me in Mexico.
yeah,
I said, if you get things moving gently, it's going to reestablish circulation. It's going to move all the tissue and the cells to the places it needs to go. You know what I mean? It'll really expedite the healing process. But I said, you just do it really gently, really mindfully. You don't strain your incision or anything like that.
yeah.
And he was like really adamant, this doctor. And he goes, I can't do that. He said, my doctor said I can't do that. He said, my doctor said I can only walk 1 mile a day.
And he was a doctor, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, walk a mile a day?
Yeah.
That is high impact exercise.
Yeah, that would be way more
That
impact.
would be way more. So he just like completely ignored. So anyway, that's why I started giving away the gospel of science, because I realized people need to see this science, you know?
Yeah,
And it's like once they see the science and then they entertain the possibility of it, then their mind body practice becomes much greater possibility. It unlocks,
yeah,
just like you experienced, like you're a living example of it. Yeah. And me
yeah,
too, really. It's like, change. Like one of the things that happened to me, as I talked to all these scientists and I started learning, about what it can do for focus and consciousness and all this, and then learning all this, it really threw me back into my mind body practice, so that I was really, doing all this stuff much more, and on a regular basis. And so anyway, I started going to the gym to get away from the computer. And so, I was at the gym, just in the afternoon, just get away from computers. So I started shooting baskets on the basketball court, just to do something physical. And
yeah.
I was horrible at basketball in school. I tried out for the basketball team 1 year, and I was so horrible. I virtually never picked up basketball again for 50 years after that. And that's how bad I was. But anyway, so I went to the gym, just a few years ago and started shooting. And this was after I'd, immersed in all this science and threw myself back into my body. And so one day I was shooting at the gym, and there were a couple little kids, and one of them elbowed the other kid when I walked by, and he pointed at me and he goes, "Hey, there's the guy that never misses." And I was like, "Wow." And so then I brought in my camera the next day and I videotaped myself shooting. And then I went home and I looked at my stats, my statistics. I was out shooting the NBA. I was out shooting almost every player in the National
Wow.
Basketball Association, a kid who sucked at basketball in school. And it's all from this relaxation, practicing relaxation, getting, becoming
Absolutely.
aware of the body, the sensations, and letting the mind, go into alpha and relax out of the way.
Yeah,
And you develop this incredible focus. And to this day, I was shooting free throws at that time, but now I'm shooting mid range and 3 pointers, and I'm making 3 pointers at an NBA level. And I'm shooting. There's like young guys on the court, real basketball players, not people like me. Big,
yeah,
strong young men, and I'm shooting as good or better than almost all of them. I mean, it blows my mind. I'm almost 70 years old. It's
yeah. That's
we're being
amazing.
sold a bill of goods by media, which is almost all the mainstream health news media is their advertising dollars come from pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah,
At the end
yeah,
of almost every health newscast in the United States, at the end it'll say brought to you by Pfizer Corporation,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah, that's
That's
that's the only
right.
reason people aren't hearing about this stuff. Yeah, we're in the midst of a revolution, and the gospel of science it'll help you become part of this revolution as a mind-body
Yeah.
teacher and practitioner. And we need you. The world needs you.
Yeah.
It needs you to be awake and
Well,
aware.
we need you too. Yes, we're
Well,
glad you're here.
well, one thing's for sure, I can't do anything unless it inspires other people. Because that's
Of
like
course.
world. I always tell everybody about World Tai Chi Day. If me and my wife would have been the only people that showed up on that lawn 26 years ago, you
Yeah.
think the TV stations would have covered it? You think anybody would have cared about it? No, it was because mind body people all around the planet knew it was
Yeah.
time for this to happen. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, activate the mind body community all over the world to become activists as well as mind body practitioners.
So important.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your vision and everything that you have done over the years. And I will be sharing all of your information. Let's try and move these signatures up and get to as many mind-body practitioners that we can. And I thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
taking this time with me today. And I hope that we can talk again.
Yeah, it's so nice meeting you, April. I'm really glad we
Yeah,
made the connection.
awesome. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I will get that recording to you soon.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Okay. Much love. Have a beautiful day.
You too.